Our guy was a stressed-out grad student who dies in a lab fire and wakes up as a side character in a rom-com manga he's never even read. But before we get to that, we see where he ends up, at the center of a classic harem protagonist's life, with girls confessing to him left and right. He just wanted a normal life, but somehow ended up here. The story actually starts with him waking up in a hospital bed. His last memory is being a grad student, running into a burning lab to save his research, and then blacking out. He's confused, but a doctor at his bedside helps him piece it together. Just then, his whole world twists. When he catches his reflection, the face looking back isn't his. He's possessed the body of a high schooler named Kim Yoo-sung. As he's driven home, he gets the rundown. Kim Yoo-sung is a totally average kid who was in a car accident and ended up in a coma. The moment our guy realizes his old, overworked grad student self is actually gone for good, he's ecstatic. He finally escaped the hell of grad school. This is the best day of his new life. He gets to his new home, and his mom sends him up to his room to rest. He feels a little weird walking into a stranger's room, but the second he opens the door, he realizes this kid was anything but average. The place is an absolute shrine to otaku culture. We're talking wall-to-wall manga, magical girl posters, and anime figures everywhere. The original Kim Yoo-sung was a super hardcore nerd. This is going to be a problem. If he suddenly acts like a normal person, the parents will know something is up. While trying to figure out how to blend in, he starts going through the manga collection. He finds one called Scramble Love, a massively popular shonen rom-com that sold over 10 million copies. He vaguely remembers reading online that the series had a really controversial ending where the main character picked a childhood friend out of nowhere, and the entire fandom completely lost their minds. He figures he should probably know what this is all about, so he pulls an all-nighter and reads the whole thing. The next day, he's helping out at his family's restaurant when the front door opens. In walk two kids who look incredibly familiar. The girl is clinging to the guy, calling him Ryuji, and that's when it all clicks. These are the main characters from Scramble Love. He hasn't just possessed some random kid. He's been isekai'd into the world of the manga he just read. The worst part? He never actually read it before last night. He has zero inside knowledge about the plot, other than knowing the ending sucks. With no special powers and no future knowledge to exploit, he makes a plan. He's just gonna be a background character. Step 1. Avoid the protagonist Sakamoto Ryuji at all costs. To secure his peaceful, drama-free life, he goes into overdrive. He reads every book in Yoo-sung's room to nail the personality. He studies his butt off and gets a full scholarship to a private high school far away from the main story's setting. And then he discovers the gym. He starts working out and finds that he absolutely loves it. The simple cause and effect of lifting is way more satisfying than grad school ever was. Time passes. He successfully made it to his second year of high school, and he's not the same scrawny kid anymore. He's totally jacked. On the first day at his new school, he walks onto campus feeling confident that his plan to live a quiet life is finally working. Over the past several months, he'd bulked up like crazy. He told himself this intense training was purely to protect himself. After all, he was trapped in a manga world, where anything from aliens to yakuza could pop up at any moment. This was all to prepare for an uncertain future, he reasoned. Definitely not for the sake of making gains. He successfully played it straight through his first year, and was determined to keep up the charade. But the moment he steps into his new classroom, his plans are shattered. He spots Yaguchi Maya, the main heroine of the original story, and right next to her is the story's protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. Of all the rotten luck, he's ended up in the same class as the one person he spent a year trying to avoid. He'd even picked a school far away, just to prevent this. So much for a peaceful school life. From his seat, he overhears Ryuji complaining to Maya about his terrible morning. Ryuji mentions losing his wallet and bumping into some girl, a phrase that immediately sets off classic rom-com alarm bells in Yoo-sung's head. Suddenly, the classroom door slides open. Their teacher walks in, calling for the class to settle down. He strolls to the front, smiling as he announces he has important news. The students lean forward, curious about the announcement. The teacher reveals they have a new transfer student joining them. A cascade of brilliant blonde hair appears in the doorway. A beautiful girl walks in, instantly capturing the attention of the entire class. The boys are completely mesmerized by her dazzling appearance. The teacher encourages her to introduce herself to her new classmates. With a bright, energetic smile, she announces that her name is Kishimoto Rika. Yoo-sung watches from the back, his face hardening with dread. He recognizes that name immediately. Kishimoto Rika is another one of the main heroines from Scramble Love, a massive fan favorite who won the popularity polls, even if she didn't win in the end. The plot he tried so hard to escape is now converging right in his classroom. The teacher, oblivious to the drama, tells Rika she can take the empty seat, right next to the protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. A textbook rom-com setup. As she makes her way to the desk, Ryuji's eyes widen in horrified recognition, and she recognizes him too, her friendly smile vanishing in an instant. Ryuji realizes she's the violent girl from this morning, while she angrily points him out as the perv she ran into. The teacher just chuckles, pleased that the two of them already seem to know each other. Fuming, Rika stomps over to her new desk. She plops down into her seat, shooting a fierce glare at the bewildered protagonist. She turns away with a huff, refusing to even look at him. Ryuji is completely baffled by her aggressive reaction. But then, She slides a familiar object across his desk. It's his lost wallet. Yu-sung watches the entire rom-com scene unfold, already dreading the next 2 years of this. He seriously considers transferring. Later that day, things have calmed down. A classmate approaches Yu-sung, asking if he can borrow a manga magazine when he's done. Maintaining his otaku persona, Yu-sung casually tells him to knock himself out. He reflects on his strategy. While he may not have read Scramble Love, he's studied countless other rom-coms and understands the genre's predictable patterns. However, he also knows that manga plots never go quite the way you expect. Just then, Ryuji suddenly grabs Rika's hand, startling her. He insists they need to step outside for a bit to talk about what happened that morning. Rika looks flustered by his abrupt demand. As they leave, a nearby classmate wonders aloud if there's something going on between those two. Yu-sung's eyes narrow. This is his chance. He makes a crude excuse about needing the bathroom and decides to follow them. He slips out of the classroom, his face set with grim determination. His mission: to gather first-hand intel on the unfolding plot. But as he strides down the hall, his intimidating presence sends the other students cowering in fear. They whisper rumors that he must be a Yakuza assassin or the boss's top enforcer. Yu-sung sighs, wondering if he's a magnet for trouble. Still, he admits his scary reputation makes it easier to slip out unnoticed. He just needs to check on their little event to stay ahead of the plot. He knows that if he wants his predictions to be accurate, he has to witness these key scenes himself. He's studied enough rom-coms to know exactly where they're going. In a high school, there's only one classic spot for a private confrontation like this. He follows them, his destination clear: the back of the school. At the classic rom-com confrontation spot behind the school, Ryuji offers a full-blown, formal apology to Rika for the morning's mishap. Hiding in the bushes, Yu-sung watches on, identifying this as a classic apology trope. He can't help but cringe at the overly dramatic pose, but acknowledges it's exactly what a rom-com protagonist would do. Rika, however, looks completely unimpressed, her arms crossed as she stares down at him. But then, the corner of her mouth twitches as she tries to suppress a laugh. The facade breaks completely, and she bursts into laughter at his earnest display. Wiping a tear from her eye, she teases him, commenting on how surprisingly innocent he is. A baffled Ryuji asks if she wasn't actually mad about what happened that morning. Rika casually explains that it was just an accident, and she's not petty enough to hold a grudge over something so small. When he asks why she acted so furious, she admits she just wanted to see his shocked face again because it was so funny. Yu-sung analyzes the scene, recalling Rika's bright personality that made her the fan favorite in the original manga. This is her first encounter event with the male lead, a textbook rom-com opening, playing out perfectly. But just as he's deep in his analysis, a voice suddenly calls out his name, breaking his concentration. A girl holding an elegant red fan appears, questioning what a future student council secretary is doing skulking in the bushes. She archly asks if he's doing something as disgraceful as peeping on the other students. It's Saionji Kumiko, the powerful head of the student council and descendant of a prestigious noble family. Yu-sung immediately recognizes her as the classic villainous-type character, a rival who was ultimately pushed aside in the original story. To Yu-sung, any heroine is a threat to his peaceful life. Before she can react, Yu-sung calmly snaps a branch off the bush he was hiding in. Yu-sung stammers out a flimsy excuse, claiming he was just admiring the branch for the student council room. Kumiko stares at him, clearly unimpressed by his bizarre explanation for lurking in the bushes. But then, a faint blush creeps onto her cheeks as she looks at the branch in his hand. She takes it from him, deciding that since her secretary picked on it, she'll at least put it in the staff meeting room. Yu-sung is left dumbfounded. He meant his comment as a sarcastic jab, but somehow, it actually worked. She accepts his thank you, her blush deepening as she clutches the little branch. Changing the subject, he asks what brings her here, remarking that he didn't expect to see her on the first day of the term. Kumiko explains she's treating the other student council officers to a meal and decided to give her absentee secretary a special chance to join them. She beckons him to follow, urging him to hurry before all the good seats in the cafeteria are taken. Yu-sung stops her, pointing out that the humble school cafeteria probably doesn't serve food that suits a noble lady's palate. She turns back with a huff, chiding him for not knowing her at all. Is he implying that she, Saionji Kumiko, doesn't understand the culture and food of commoners? She reminds him of a pork stir-fry rice bowl they once had at a staff restaurant, declaring she had no problem with it. Yu-sung internally scoffs. He remembers that meal was a minuscule portion of Wagyu steak that she barely touched. This rich girl is definitely roasting them. He bluntly informs her that the school cafeteria does not, in fact, serve pork stir-fry rice bowls. Completely flustered, she demands to know what they serve instead. He tells her they have a similar dish called gyudon. The name alone makes her hesitate. Her noble sensibilities are clearly offended by the very idea of eating something called gyudon. A voice calls her out on her earlier, bragging about understanding commoner food. Suddenly, another student with glasses arrives on the scene, calling out for his milady. This is Akaki Shinjiro, the student council vice president. He spots Yu-sung with the president and immediately grows suspicious. Pushing up his glasses, the vice president's eyes narrow as he puts the pieces together. He explodes at Yu-sung, yelling at him for daring to show his face after skipping every single student council meeting. He then reveals the most shocking detail. The poor lady here skipped her own fancy meal just to go looking for her slacker secretary. Yu-sung is stunned. She skipped her precious Wagyu steak for him. Utterly embarrassed, Kumiko denies everything, shouting that she was never sad or worried. But her loyal vice president is having none of it, declaring that he will no longer stand by and watch such insolence toward his lady. Proclaiming that his family has served hers for generations, she begins dragging the protesting vice president away, telling him to hurry back before his precious Wagyu steak gets cold. As they disappear, Yu-sung is left completely bewildered, having absolutely no idea what just transpired. Later that day, after school, Yu-sung heads to the subway station. His towering, muscular frame makes him stand out, parting the crowd like the Red Sea. He reflects on the day's chaos. With the heroines and protagonist finally assembled, the story of Scramble Love is officially underway. Thanks to his intense training and intimidating aura, almost everyone from his first year avoids him like the plague. This actually works perfectly for his plan. He smirks, thinking that size truly is king, and bulking up was the right move. He checks the time, noting he has about 10 minutes until the next train. With some time to kill, he grabs a drink from a nearby vending machine. He takes a sip, feeling confident. The main characters have met, so the plot will progress on its own. All he has to do is lay low. But just as he's congratulating himself, a hand suddenly grabs his jacket from behind. He whirls around, wondering who would dare to approach him. It's none other than the new transfer student, Kishimoto Rika, who cheerfully reminds him they're in the same class. Yu-sung's blood runs cold. His carefully constructed plan for a quiet life shatters in an instant. Why? Why is one of the main heroines talking to him? Rika beams, saying she was worried but is glad she ran into him so soon. Without warning, she grabs the startled Yu-sung's jacket to get his attention. Yu-sung is completely stunned, wondering why a main heroine would ever approach a background character like him. But Rika just casually points to the name tag, pinned on his uniform. With a sly, sparkling grin, she cheekily informs him that his name is written right there for everyone to see. Yu-sung is left dumbfounded, having completely forgotten about such a simple detail. Rika lets out a quiet PFFT, clearly amused by his flustered reaction. She then confidently declares that he's a good guy after all, and that her initial impression of him was right. Yu-sung stares back, completely taken aback by her positive assessment. He's utterly baffled, with question marks practically floating around his head as he tries to figure out what she's talking about. He asks what she could possibly mean by being right about him. She explains that he stuck out like a sore thumb in class, radiating a weird and intense energy all by himself. On top of that, she'd heard all the wild rumors flying around that he fought a 50-man biker gang, or that a baseball coach tried to scout him. She smiles brightly, adding that seeing him act so casual with the class queen herself sealed the deal. It proved he was actually a good person underneath the tough exterior. Yu-sung's internal monologue screeches to a halt. His carefully laid plans are ruined. He's now directly involved with one of the story's two main heroines. He realizes she has completely misunderstood the situation, but he can't help but be struck by her kindness. Now he understands why she was #1 in the popularity poll. Her willingness to approach someone like him, despite the crazy rumors, is exactly what makes her so beloved. He's snapped out of his internal panic when Rika calls his name, clearly waiting for a response. She pouts, puffing her cheeks out and complaining that he didn't even react to her compliment. He quickly stammers an apology and awkwardly thanks her for the kind words. Rika's bright smile instantly returns at his response. She tells him not to worry. While everyone else might misunderstand him, she'll be his friend until they see who he really is. Yu-sung realizes that trying to act intimidating to scare her off would have been completely useless against her relentless positivity. It hits him then. With her personality, it wouldn't have mattered if he was a scrawny nobody or a buff gangster. As classmates, their interaction was simply inevitable. With a dark, determined look, he decides to lean into it. He'll play along for now, accepting her friendship by calling her Rika. Rika is absolutely thrilled that her bold move paid off, and he's warming up to her. She then remembers why she approached him in the first place, asking for directions to a specific address. The address is for Seijo Station in Tokyo, a notoriously wealthy and exclusive residential area. Yu-sung is surprised. It seems Rika isn't just a friendly transfer student. She's got a rich girl background too. Rika is ecstatic when Yu-sung reveals that her new place is near his. She pumps her fists, exclaiming that she knew asking him was the right call. The full weight of the situation crashes down on Yu-sung. Their houses are near each other? He explains that his station, Chitose Funabashi, is only 2 stops away from Seijo. Rika is over the moon, declaring that a coincidence this perfect must be fate. But for Yu-sung, this fated encounter is a complete disaster for his plan to live a quiet, peaceful life. As his mind races, he has a sudden, terrifying realization about a critical flaw in his entire strategy. The fatal issue is that he never actually read the original Scramble Love manga. All his knowledge is based on general rom-com tropes. He concludes that information straight from the source, Rika herself, is far more valuable than any trope. The importance of the original story is paramount. His new plan forms in an instant. He'll become her friend, gather intel on the unfolding plot, and maybe even give her advice if things with the male lead go south. It's borderline blackmail, but it's for his survival. He smirks to himself. A small change like this, having an extra befriend a heroine, shouldn't derail the main plot too much. Turning back to awaiting Rika, he casually offers to buy her a drink as thanks for her friendship. She happily chooses a sweet cola from the vending machine. She wastes no time cracking it open and taking a huge gulp. With a blissful expression, she exclaims that nothing beats a cold soda. Yoo-sung dryly remarks on how much she seems to love cola. She laughs, admitting it's been a while since she's had one because she's been watching her diet. When he asks why, she proudly holds up her phone to show him. On the screen is a photo from her modeling days, where she sports a completely different, edgy gyaru style. She explains that as a former fashion model, taking care of her body is second nature. Yoo-sung notes how different she looks, casually wondering if it's just heavy makeup. Rika immediately gets flustered and defensive, loudly insisting that it's not just makeup. Luckily for Yoo-sung, the arrival of their train cuts her protest short. As the train speeds along, other passengers instinctively shy away from Yoo-sung's intimidating presence. This leaves the two of them in a surprisingly spacious bubble on an otherwise crowded train car. Rika giggles, cheekily pointing out that riding with him is like having a shortcut through the crowds. Yoo-sung can only sweat drop, realizing his carefully crafted, intimidating aura is now being used for her convenience. Rika pulls out a subway map on her phone, trying to navigate the confusing tangle of lines. Yoo-sung quickly points her in the right direction, though she still looks lost and overwhelmed, trying to keep up. He calmly steps off the train, leaving the flustered Rika to scramble after him. The train announces its arrival at Chitose Funabashi Station. He tells her this is his stop. He gives her a final nod, feeling a bit of relief as he prepares to make his escape. Rika waves a cheerful goodbye, thanking him for everything, and adding that she'll be counting on him tomorrow too. The train doors slide shut, separating them. Yoo-sung is left frozen on the platform, the words echoing in his mind. Tomorrow too? His peaceful life is officially over. The next day at school, lunchtime rolls around, but Rika realizes she's forgotten her lunch at home. Meanwhile, Yoo-sung finds his usual secluded spot behind the school to eat in peace. He opens up his lunchbox to reveal a delicious-looking spread of homemade kimbap. Just as he's about to enjoy his first bite, he's suddenly interrupted. His head snaps up as a familiar voice calls out his name. To his surprise, it's Rika. She's managed to track him down, looking a bit shy as she clutches a small bag. Her expression softens with concern as she asks if he really eats out here all by himself every single day. Yoo-sung explains that it's just easier this way, since his intimidating presence tends to make the other students uncomfortable. He reassures the worried Rika that he's fine with it, telling her not to worry so much about him. But Rika, blushing, insists that it doesn't feel right for him to be all alone like this. Suddenly, her eyes light up with an idea as she spots his lunch. Her attention is completely captured by the colorful rolls of kimbap. Her face beams with excitement as she recognizes the food from K-dramas, exclaiming that it's her first time seeing it in real life. Before he can react, she eagerly asks if she can try just one piece, her eyes sparkling with hope. Her mood brightens instantly, as she happily suggests they become lunch buddies from now on. When Yoo-sung dryly points out he won't have kimbap every day, she transforms into an angry cat girl, insisting that's not why she asked. Yoo-sung can't help but reflect on how he's somehow managed to get this close to one of the main heroines. As she takes her first bite, he admits her cheerful personality makes it surprisingly easy to be around her, finally understanding her top-tier popularity. She happily chews on the kimbap, a look of pure bliss washing over her face. With literal tears of joy in her eyes, she declares that it's absolutely delicious. Now, sitting together on the bench, Rika guesses his family must own a Korean restaurant, but he just brushes it off. In return, Rika excitedly offers to trade him some of her homemade Japanese rolled omelet. She proudly opens up her own adorable bento box, filled with classic lunch items like octopus-shaped sausages and tempura. Yoo-sung agrees to the trade and takes a bite of the omelet she offers. The moment it hits his tongue, his entire world is rocked by an unexpected and overwhelming flavor. It's an unholy amount of sweetness. He's completely floored, wondering if she based her recipe on a sugar evangelist's gospel. Barely able to speak through the sugar shock, he asks her just how much of the sweet stuff she dumped into this thing. A fiery aura of disbelief surrounds him. He tells her for her own health, he'll have to teach her the ways of a proper zero-sugar omelet. Rika is completely baffled by his reaction, arguing that salt in an omelet is weird, and that sweet and salty is the ultimate combination. She just laughs it off, calling his taste weird but adding that it's fine for everyone to have their own little quirks. Their banter is cut short, however, as Yoo-sung notices a couple of figures approaching them with purpose. In the distance, he spots two students marching toward them, It's none other than the student council president, blowing a whistle with a look of stern disapproval. As she gets closer, her intense aura radiates her inner thoughts. She's here to put a stop to their improper relationship. Her eyes are practically blacked out with righteousness, and a hint of flustered determination. With the authority of her position, she dramatically declares that as the student council president, she cannot allow this. Yu-sung is completely lost, wondering what on earth she could possibly be talking about. Louis steps forward to clarify, stating that a boy and a girl eating alone in a deserted corner is obviously an improper relationship. Louis smugly confronts Yu-sung, challenging him to try and make excuses now that he's been caught red-handed. But Yu-sung remains calm, coolly denying both the accusation and any need for excuses. As Rika watches the scene unfold, Yu-sung nonchalantly points out to the president that they seem to be running into each other an awful lot lately. The president flushes, lost for words, while Louis explains it's only natural since Yu-sung is technically part of the Grand Student Council. Suddenly, Rika has a flash of recognition, pointing and loudly identifying the girl as the Dark Student Council president from the school rumors. The president is left utterly speechless and confused by the bizarre nickname. Rika cheerfully explains the rumor about her always walking around alone in her special black uniform, adding that seeing her now, the name totally fits. This is the last straw for the president, who explodes in fury at the perceived insult. Rika, completely unfazed, just tells her to own the cosplay look, which only makes the president more flustered. In a baffling display of kindness, Rika even offers her adversary a piece of the controversial sugary omelet. The president snaps, shouting at Rika in a moment of pure frustration and vowing that she will be back to deal with them. She then makes a hasty, humiliated retreat, with her loyal follower Louis scrambling to keep up and calling her "Milady." With the storm past, Yu-sung and Rika are once again left in peace. Rika turns to Yu-sung, completely oblivious, and asks what she did wrong. He can only tell her he has no idea. Later that day, the final bell rings, signaling the end of classes. Yu-sung is still sitting at his desk, having made no move to leave yet. He looks up, once again hearing his name being called from across the room. Of course, it's Rika. Wondering why he's still hanging around the empty classroom, she spots an Ichigo Academy club guide on his desk and gets excited, asking if he's finally thinking about joining a club. Without waiting for an answer, she enthusiastically suggests they go check out some of the clubs together, right now. Yu-sung listens as she explains that experiencing the clubs firsthand is better than just overthinking it. After a moment of thought, he agrees with her logic. He stands up, ready to go, and says they might as well start immediately. He then startles her by declaring his intention to visit every single club in the school. An unsettling, almost demonic grin spreads across his face. He cracks his knuckles, revealing his true motive. He's just curious to see exactly how far his overwhelming strength can take him. First stop on Yu-sung's club-conquering tour is the soccer field, with an excited Rika tagging along. On the pitch, one of the club members winds up for a powerful shot on goal. But his aim is laughably bad, sending the ball flying way over the net as the goalie watches in disbelief. Watching from the sidelines, a couple of delinquents immediately start mocking the player for his terrible shot. One of them, a blonde punk, loudly complains about how his 5 missed shots are bringing the team down. The frustrated player snaps back, challenging the loudmouth to try it himself if he's so good. His teammates try to de-escalate, telling him to just ignore the punks, but it's too late. The delinquent just laughs, vowing to show them how a real pro does it. Suddenly, a calm voice cuts through the noise, telling the two troublemakers that the soccer team was there first. The blonde punk whips around, infuriated, demanding to know who has the nerve to talk down to them. He puffs up his chest, boasting that they're the school's renowned top striker duo. But their bravado completely vanishes in an instant. Standing before them is the imposing figure of the third-year soccer club captain. The delinquents immediately recognize him as the legendary Zero-Back Ryohei. Their faces drain of color as they are paralyzed with fear. They quickly bow and stammer an apology, claiming they just got a bit too excited while practicing. Then they scram, making a hasty retreat with their tails tucked firmly between their legs. One of the younger players thanks the captain for handling the situation so coolly. Ryohei brushes it off and asks his teammate about the new freshman recruits. The teammate admits that so far, none of them have really shown much promise. Ryohei looks concerned, revealing his personal goal is to win the nationals this year. He worries that the club just doesn't have enough talent to make that dream a reality. He muses that if they could just find one really strong first year, their chances of victory would skyrocket. Meanwhile, the two delinquents who ran away are seen walking off, still fuming from the humiliation. The blonde one is furious and wants to go back and get revenge on the captain. His friend tries to talk some sense into him, reminding him of Ryohei's terrifying power. They say his shots clock in at over 100 kilometers per hour, fast enough to be a lethal weapon. But the blonde punk scoffs, claiming fighting isn't just about physique, it's about experience. Right as he's monologuing, someone walks straight into him, shoulder-checking him hard. He explodes in anger, shouting at the person who dared to interrupt his big bro moment. He turns to confront the offender, ready to throw down. But the face he sees sends a jolt of pure terror through him and his friend. It's Kim Yoo-sung, looking down at them with an impassive yet terrifying expression. The delinquents' minds go blank with fear as his intimidating aura washes over them. They scream in horror, identifying him as the infamous heir of the Mad Dog Fist, Kim Yoo-sung. Without a second's hesitation, they turn and bolt, running for their lives as if a demon is chasing them. Yoo-sung and Rika are left standing on the track, Rika looking completely bewildered by this sudden chaos. In the background, other students who witness the scene whisper in amazement. The rumor quickly spreads that the fearsome Kim Yoo-sung just defeated 2 gangsters with his gaze alone. Rika, however, is not impressed. She immediately starts scolding Yoo-sung for starting fights again. She reminds him of his goal to get along with his classmates and make a good impression. Yoo-sung deadpans that he didn't do anything. They spoke to him, so he just looked at them. Rika sighs in exasperation, telling him that for someone with his reputation, even just looking is a problem. She realizes her mission to help him make friends is going to be much harder than she thought. Back at the soccer field, the club members are practicing when they notice Yoo-sung and Rika approaching. One of the players recognizes him immediately and starts to panic. He wonders if Yoo-sung is here for revenge on behalf of the delinquents, fearing he'll get caught in the crossfire. The captain, Ryohei, calmly places a hand on his teammate's shoulder. He tells him to relax, reasoning that Yoo-sung probably isn't that petty, but his teammate is still nervous, bringing up all the bad rumors about Yoo-sung being a problem child banned from clubs. Ryohei observes Yoo-sung's approach, unconvinced by the stories. He doesn't think Yoo-sung looks like the kind of person who goes around picking on delinquents. With a confident stride, Ryohei steps up to greet the newcomer. He introduces himself as Ryohei, captain of the soccer club, and politely asks what brings them to the field. Yoo-sung wastes no time, stating plainly that he'd like to try out for the club. Ryohei is momentarily stunned into silence by the direct request. Standing face to face, he's completely taken aback by Yoo-sung's sheer physical presence. He notes that Yoo-sung is at least 10 centimeters taller, and his physique is so overwhelming it can't be hidden by his clothes. Ryohei, a top athlete himself, feels like a dwarf in comparison. In his mind, a vision of glory appears, him and Yoo-sung, hoisting the national championship trophy high. He realizes this is it. This is the strong first year he's been dreaming of. With a fiery determination in his eyes, he declares internally that he must have this guy on the team. Yoo-sung notices the captain is just staring at him intensely and asks if he's okay. Snapping back to reality, Ryohei apologizes and quickly explains the entrance test. The test is simple. He gets 1 shot to kick the ball from the penalty line into the goal with all his strength. Yoo-sung stands before the goal, contemplating the instruction to use his full strength. A small, dangerous smile creeps onto his face. He's ready to go all out. An incredible purple aura explodes around him as he begins to power up for the kick. He crouches low, muscles tensing, and unleashes a kick with the force of a cannonball. The soccer club members watch in absolute shock, the speed of the kick being too fast for the human eye. The captain stares, completely dumbfounded, admitting he couldn't even track the ball's movement. They all look towards the goal, which remains strangely empty. The ball is nowhere in sight. Then they spot it. Lying on the ground near Yoo-sung is the flattened, ripped-apart husk of the soccer ball. Yoo-sung casually remarks that it seems soccer is off the table and turns to Rika to ask what other sports clubs are nearby. After destroying the soccer ball, Yoo-sung moves on to the basketball club, where he promptly shatters the backboard with a monstrous dunk. Next up is the baseball club. With a single swing, he generates a shockwave, terrifying the other members. At the tennis court, his serve is so powerful, it leaves a literal crater in the ground, blowing his opponents away. Rika's mission to find him a club is going destructively. She crosses off soccer, baseball, and tennis, calling them one-hit clears. Despite the chaos, Rika is surprisingly cheerful, proudly showing Yoo-sung her updated list. Yoo-sung, however, is more practical and simply asks Rika how many sports clubs they have left to try. Rika's expression immediately shifts to one of smug confidence, as if she was just waiting for him to ask. In a dramatic flair, she whips out a pair of red-framed glasses, ready to present her findings. Putting them on, she transforms into a master analyst, prepared to deliver a full-blown presentation. Yoo-sung is left completely dumbfounded by her sudden, over-the-top change in character. With the first 3 clubs thoroughly demolished and crossed off the list, Rika points out their remaining options. First, there's the track and field club, which is great for building stamina and focus. Then there's the swimming club, perfect for improving cardio and full-body strength. And finally, the kendo club, which trains discipline and mental fortitude. Adjusting her glasses with an air of authority, she coolly concludes her detailed analysis. She proudly asks if her explanation was perfect, clearly expecting praise for her thorough work. With cat-like enthusiasm, she asks where they're heading next, ready to guide him anywhere. Yoo-sung, however, ignores the question. Instead, he looks at her thoughtfully and asks if she has ever done any acting besides her modeling work. The question catches Rika completely off guard, her confident demeanor shattering in an instant. Flustered and blushing, she stammers, asking why he would bring that up so suddenly. Twirling her hair nervously, she admits that it's a bit of an embarrassing topic for her to talk about. With a deep blush, she shyly confesses that she used to do something that was sort of like acting. Yu-sung is visibly shocked by her reaction, and his mind immediately starts racing with ominous possibilities. He begins to sweat, trying to convince himself that a main heroine like Lydia couldn't possibly have that kind of dark backstory. He steels his resolve, thinking to himself that if he plans to mess with the story, it's best to find things out in advance. She hastily pulls him along, reminding him that they still have 3 clubs left to visit. Yu-sung glances at her, sensing how flustered she is, and wisely decides it's better not to push the topic any further. With Rika leading the way, they decide on their next destination, the Kendo Club. As they approach the Kendo dojo, a student standing outside spots them and freezes in place. The student panics, recognizing the infamous Kim Yu-sung and frantically alerting everyone inside. News of Yu-sung's club-wrecking tour has clearly spread like wildfire, and his intimidating presence only fuels the rumors. The hallway is packed with nervous students, all whispering about the monster who has reportedly destroyed several sports clubs already. Even the school's journalism club is here, but the student reporter is too terrified to get close for an interview. Seeing an opportunity, Rika steps forward, puts on her glasses, and boldly declares herself to be Yu-sung's manager, offering to take any questions. Just then, the doors to the dojo slide open, and a calm, commanding presence steps out. Yu-sung turns his attention to the newcomer, sensing a different kind of energy. The figure reveals that she's heard the rumors of a stray delinquent using tryouts as an excuse to wreck every team in school. With a confident stride and an unwavering gaze, she declares that this is where his rampage ends. A text box introduces her as Fuma Yukika, the formidable third-year captain of the Kendo Club. She stands before Yu-sung, completely unfazed by his reputation, earning gasps of admiration from the crowd. Yu-sung, ignoring the drama, simply states that he's only here because he's interested in the club, and asks her to explain the trial. Yukika gives a slight smirk, telling him she likes his straightforward attitude. She grabs the shinai bag from her back, laying out the simple terms of the test. First strike wins. Slapping the bag into her hand, she declares that she will personally be his opponent, and invites him into the dojo. The crowd erupts with excitement, hyping up the match between the human weapon and the Kendo Club captain. Students cheer for their senpai, Yukika, convinced that Kim Yu-sung's reign of terror will end today. Yu-sung sweats a little, amused that everyone is treating him like he's some kind of final boss villain. Suddenly, Yukika's voice booms through the hall as she screams for silence. The entire crowd flinches, immediately shutting up under the force of her command. Her expression hardens as she states that this is a one-on-one match, and no one else is allowed inside the dojo. Her eyes flash with a dangerous light as she warns that if anyone insists on coming in, she'll take them on before she even fights Yu-sung. The spectators are completely cowed, not daring to make a sound. Even Rika is impressed, acknowledging to herself that this captain is on a whole different level from everyone else he's encountered so far. As he watches her, he feels an immense, suffocating pressure emanating from her very being. In his mind's eye, a monstrous blue snake with glowing red eyes materializes behind her, a terrifying manifestation of her incredible spirit and power. Yu-sung tells Rika to wait outside, knowing this is a serious fight. Rika agrees, knowing she'd just get yelled at if she went in. Inside the tranquil dojo, shelves of kendo equipment line the walls, setting the stage for the duel. Yukika stands ready, holding a bamboo sword, and asks if Yu-sung needs protective armor, known as a bogu. Now holding a shinai of his own, Yu-sung faces her, declining the offer, as he doubts they'd have anything in his size. He tightens his grip on the sword, warning her that he won't be held responsible if she ends up getting hurt. Yukika just scoffs, finding his warning ridiculous, and telling him he says the funniest things. With unwavering confidence, she grips her shinai and boasts that he won't even come close to touching her uniform, telling him to prepare himself. The fight instantly erupts, their bamboo swords clashing with a force that sends sparks flying. Yukika presses her attack, acknowledging that for a street punk, Yu-sung has some decent skills. But she remains confident, believing his raw strength is nothing compared to a true, trained martial artist like herself. Yu-sung, however, seems completely unfazed, his expression remaining stoic as he easily keeps pace with her. They exchange a flurry of blows, their movements becoming a blur of speed and precision. Suddenly, Yukika's eyes flash with insight. She's found an opening. With a deft strike, Yukika sends Yu-sung's shinai flying into the air, disarming him completely. For a brief moment, Yu-sung looks caught off guard by the move. A victorious smirk spreads across Yukika's face. She calls him a foolish boy, certain of her victory. She lunges forward to deliver the final blow, thinking the match is over. But as his shinai falls, Yu-sung's demeanor shifts. His hand shoots up, stopping the sword in midair. His face contorts into a horrifying, demonic grin, his eyes glowing with an insane purple light. Yukika's confident expression shatters, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror at the monstrous height he can reach. Before she can react, Yu-sung is standing over her, his shiny back in hand as if nothing happened. Forced to her knees by the overwhelming pressure, Yukika trembles, wondering what she just witnessed. Yu-sung calmly stands before her. Yukika, on the other hand, wonders if he just spared her on purpose. Her fear turns to grim determination. She understands now. She has completely underestimated her opponent. Deciding she can't drag this out, she resolves to end this with her next strike. Gathering all her strength, she unleashes her clan's secret art, a powerful technique known as Slay the Wicked. She charges forward, putting everything she has into this one decisive strike, screaming that this is the end for Kim Yu-sung. Yu-sung simply stands there, watching the unstoppable attack come right for him. Instead of dodging or blocking, he lets the shinai connect, taking the full force of her ultimate move directly to the chest. Yukika lands her attack and smirks, confident that no one could withstand the Fuma clan's secret technique. But her victory is short-lived, as she looks up in utter disbelief. Having tanked her ultimate move, without even flinching, Yu-sung delivers a devastating punch right to her face. The impact sends Yukika flying backward, her body limp and her shinai shattered from the force of her own failed attack. She crumples to the floor, knocked out cold before she even knows what hit her. Her broken shinai lies on the floor. In her fading consciousness, she wonders if she was hit by some kind of killing aura, but she can't make sense of it, feeling nothing of the sort before she was struck. As Yukika examines his chest, she imagines a system window pop up, showing muscle enhancement 4/10. She finally understands, cursing the muscle head. The next morning, the school is buzzing with rumors about yesterday's events. Students in classroom 2B are gossiping wildly, their stories growing more and more exaggerated. Yu-sung listens in silence, as they claim he single-handedly took out every sports club in the school to assert his dominance. He sweats, realizing the rumor mill has turned him into the school's final boss, with some even saying the kendo captain Yukika was hospitalized. He glances over at the story's actual protagonist, Ryuji, who seems completely oblivious, acting as if nothing happened. Just then, the ever-cheerful Rika arrives, giving him a bright morning greeting. Suddenly, the classroom door is slammed open with a powerful crash. A fiery red-headed girl storms in, her face a mask of pure rage. The entire class falls silent as she stands in the doorway, her angry gaze sweeping across the room. Ryuji, as confused as everyone else, asks who she is. Another student identifies her as Tojo Karen from the Kendo Club. Karen marches straight up to Ryuji and gets in his face, furiously accusing him of beating up her first-year club members. A chibi version of Ryuji sweats nervously, trying to explain that it's all a big misunderstanding. But Karen isn't listening, yelling that she visited them in the hospital and knows everything. Yu-sung and Rika can only watch from the sidelines, wondering what on earth is going on now. Just as things are about to escalate, one of Ryuji's female friends steps in to defend him. She calmly tells Karen that the Kendo Club's first years were the ones who started the trouble. Karen's anger falters for a moment as she listens to the other side of the story. The girl explains that the first years had cornered her in an alley, and Ryuji had only stepped in to protect her. With the truth revealed, she crosses her arms and tells Karen to go discipline her own club members properly. She confirms one last time that Ryuji was not at fault. Hearing the full story, Karen's face flushes a deep red, her rage completely vanishing. Then, in a shocking twist, she points a trembling finger at Ryuji, her eyes wide with a completely different kind of emotion. Ryuji is left utterly speechless, having no idea how to react to this sudden and bizarre change in her demeanor. His friend is equally baffled, her mind completely blank as she tries to process the scene. Karen suddenly grabs Ryuji's arm, her face filled with adoration as she loudly asks him to be her man, promising to make him the happiest guy alive. The entire classroom erupts, with Ryuji's friend screaming in total disbelief. Yu-sung watches the chaos unfold, dryly noting that he's just witnessed a confession attack, and that the world of romantic comedies is truly brutal. Rika, however, is having the time of her life, squealing with joy at the high school drama playing out before her. With stars in her eyes, Rika gazes at the Karen, declaring how cool she is. After the whirlwind confession from the fiery Tojo Karen, the entire school is abuzz with new gossip, this time centered on the protagonist, Ryuji Sakamoto. The students are already placing their bets, with one faction shipping him with a sweet-looking girl named Akushi, citing her charming personality and good looks. However, another group argues for the tsundere appeal of Karen, the fierce girl who seems to turn into a complete puppy for the man she likes. Yu-sung quietly listens to the chatter, musing how the high school drama has completely shifted its focus onto the main character's love life. He thinks back to Karen's bold confession, acknowledging that in the world of romance, timing and guts are everything. Suddenly, the ever-energetic Rika pulls him into the conversation, eager to hear his take on the developing love square. Leaning in with a mischievous grin, she asks Yu-sung directly who he thinks Sakamoto will end up with. Yu-sung, completely uninterested in the protagonist's romance, gives a non-answer, which Rika immediately calls out as being no fun at all. Inwardly, however, Yu-sung knows the original story's outcome. If things hadn't changed, Ryuji would have ended up with his childhood friend, Maya. But before he can dwell on it, Rika smugly declares that she, in fact, knows exactly who Sakamoto is going to date. Yu-sung is taken aback as Rika reveals a shocking piece of information. In Scramble Love, Sakamoto dates Tojo Karen. She winks, enjoying the look of surprise on Yu-sung's face, confirming that the Tsundere redhead is the true route. Rika then lays out her master plan. She will make this romance happen, but on the one condition that she gets to be Karen's personal love advisor, much to Yu-sung's annoyance. Yu-sung eyes her skeptically, questioning how confident she is in her supposed love counseling abilities. With a dramatic pose, Rika boasts that she's the legendary Kishimoto Rika, a romance guru so renowned that people literally line up for her wisdom. He dryly notes to himself that for all her supposed expertise, she can't even make her own crush notice her feelings. His unspoken jab seems to hit a nerve, as Rika gets comically fired up, frustrated by her one and only blind spot. She then turns into a cute chibi, pouting that she wishes he would pay as much attention to her as he does to everyone else's drama. The next day at school, the romantic tension is still thick in the air. As Yu-sung arrives at his classroom, he stops in his tracks, feeling a bit awkward. He's stunned to see Tojo Karen, who isn't even in their class, sitting determinedly at a desk as if waiting for someone. He quietly asks his friend Satoru what's going on, confused by the fiery redhead's presence. Satoru whispers the latest scoop. Karen has been relentlessly hounding Sakamoto, trying to set up a meeting for the weekend. She's apparently using the excuse of buying him an apology meal, but her intense gaze shows she's not taking no for an answer. Satoru sagely points out that a weekend apology meal is obviously just a pretense for a date, a fact Yu-sung can't deny. But the gossip doesn't stop there. Satoru leans in closer, revealing a rumor that Karen is actually the daughter of a major big shot. The term big shot catches Yu-sung's attention, adding another layer to the already chaotic rom-com plot. Satoru drops the bomb. Karen is rumored to be the daughter of the boss of the Duseikai, a famous Yakuza family. His friend explains they're one of the major syndicates that hold sway over the entire Kanto region. Despite the shocking revelation, Yu-sung's reaction is incredibly nonchalant, which Satoru finds a bit unnerving. Yu-sung simply reasons that her family background doesn't really change anything, since she hasn't done anything to them. His calm demeanor impresses Satoru so much that he offers to call him boss, an offer Yu-sung menacingly shuts down as being too creepy. Then it dawns on Yu-sung. In a manga world like this, the idea of a Yakuza princess being his classmate isn't just a trope, it could very well be reality. As if summoned by his thoughts, Karen suddenly leaps to her feet, spotting her target, Ryuji, finally arriving. She immediately corners the poor protagonist, loudly insisting that he set a date for their apology meal. Ryuji's friend quickly steps in to defend him, telling Karen to back off and see that he's uncomfortable. Karen snaps back that this has nothing to do with her, escalating the confrontation between the romantic rivals. Meanwhile, the less popular boys in class can only watch and weep, lamenting why the protagonist gets all the attention from the girls. As the narrator explains, Karen's aggressive courtship campaign continued relentlessly. She would chase him down after class, ignoring the teacher's protests, demanding he accept her apology meal. Her pursuit knew no boundaries, as she even stormed the boys' locker room to hunt him down. The hallways became her hunting ground, with her shouts for Sakamoto echoing through the school, day after day. This constant harassment has driven poor Ryuji to his breaking point, leaving him practically begging for mercy. Later, during lunch, Rika changes the subject and asks Yu-sung about his plans for the upcoming Golden Week holiday. Yu-sung casually replies that he has nothing special planned, other than helping out at his family's restaurant. Rika fondly recalls this fact, praising him for being such a good, hard-working son. She then seizes the opportunity, inviting him to come over to her place if he gets any free time during the break. The sudden and direct invitation catches Yu-sung completely by surprise, leaving him momentarily flustered. Sensing his hesitation, Rika quickly clarifies, baiting him with the one thing she knows he can't resist, a massive manga collection. His interest is immediately piqued. He asks just how big her collection is. Rika proudly boasts that her father is a massive collector, with enough manga to fill an entire bookstore. Genuinely impressed, Yu-sung's inner otaku is awakened by the prospect of such a treasure trove. He enthusiastically agrees to the invitation, promising to call her if he gets a day off, and Rika happily tells him to let her know any time. As they eat, Yu-sung's eyes drift to Rika's lunch tray, and a thought crosses his mind. He observes her for a moment, a curious expression on his face. He comments on how she eats quite a lot for someone so slim, a remark she casually brushes off as her normal appetite. She explains that she has a fast metabolism and doesn't gain weight easily, so she needs a big lunch to avoid snacking later. Then, with a sly grin, she leans in and cheekily claims that all the calories she consumes go straight to her chest. Yu-sung's brain visibly short-circuits as he tries to process her wildly suggestive comment. Just as he glances down in confusion, she springs her trap, feigning shock and calling him a pervert, leaving Yu-sung to realize he's been played. Rika quietly giggles to herself, clearly delighted with her successful attempt to fluster him. Her victory is short-lived, however, as her eyes widen in shock at the sight of someone approaching their table. Uninvited, Tojo Karen plops her lunch tray down and takes a seat with them, much to Rika's surprise. Seeing this as a golden opportunity, Rika immediately switches into her love guru persona, deciding now is the time to act. She smoothly introduces herself to Karen, who eyes her with suspicion. After stating her name, Karen's guarded expression instantly changes. Rika offers her assistance, noting that Karen has seemed quite troubled lately. The mere mention of the name, Kishimoto, makes Karen recognize her instantly, confirming that Rika's reputation as a love counselor is very real. The once fierce Yakuza daughter becomes incredibly shy and flustered in the presence of the legendary love master. Blushing, Karen timidly admits that she's heard of Rika's skills and desperately needs her help with love counseling. Watching from the side, Yu-sung is in utter disbelief, realizing Rika's ridiculous boasting was actually true. Rika smirks, stating that it was obvious Karen had a problem, given how she stalks Ryuji during every single break. Embarrassed, Karen frantically tries to shush her, worried that the whole cafeteria can hear their conversation. Rika, seeing her plan fall perfectly into place, formally offers her services, ready to begin love counseling for Karen. Karen looks at her with a face full of hope, her chances of winning Ryuji's affection now resting on the self-proclaimed expert. Later that day, as Yu-sung walks home, he reflects on the day's events, noting that Rika is truly having the time of her life playing matchmaker. The result of the lunch meeting was Rika organizing a strategy session for the next day, which, to Yu-sung's horror, he's been roped into attending. He contemplates how Rika's active meddling is drastically changing the original plot, which was supposed to be a simple four-way love rivalry for Ryuji, and something about her eagerness feels off. Deciding to clear his head, he puts the plot analysis aside for now, and heads to the gym for his daily training. However, as he enters, he is greeted by an unusual amount of noise and intense activity, far more than a typical day. Just as he's wondering what's going on, a familiar voice calls out his name, Kim Yu-sung. He turns toward the voice, his eyes widening in recognition. To his complete surprise, he finds his former opponent from the kendo club, Fuma Yukika, staring right at him. She coolly remarked that it seemed his club activities weren't enough of a workout for him. He nervously laughed, suddenly realizing the recent surge in gym membership was all because of her. And looking at her, he couldn't exactly blame them. He asked what brought her to this gym, learning that she had recently moved into the neighborhood. But before he could ask anything else, the boisterous gym director, Nakayama Yujiro, made his grand entrance. With a booming voice, he suddenly announced that Yu-sung would be Fuma's new personal trainer. He then leaned in and slyly whispered that she clearly liked Yu-sung enough to follow him here, so he should make the most of it. Completely flustered, Yu-sung tried to protest the wild misunderstanding, but the director had already moved on, ready to begin the training session immediately. To demonstrate, he announced a light starting weight of 220 kilos, causing Yukika to audibly gasp, questioning if that was really a beginner's weight. The director just chuckled, reassuring her not to worry. He told her that in all his 20 years in the business, he'd never seen a monster quite like Kim Yu-sung. With a firm grip on the bar, Yu-sung braced his monstrous thighs, as the director watched with a proud, knowing grin. He then easily completed the squat, lifting the massive weight as if it were a mere toy. Yukika's jaw dropped in utter disbelief. Unfazed, the director happily added more plates, upping the weight to a staggering 270 kilos. Once again, Yu-sung lifted it with ease, leaving Yukika in the background wondering if she was hallucinating. The director just gave a confident thumbs up, confirming that what she was seeing was real. Kim Yu-sung is a monster. She stared intently, realizing his strength was not just from training. It was pure, unadulterated power. His body was far from that of a normal second-year high school student. He was a bona fide monster. And on top of that, from what she had observed, she was sure he possessed a legendary power. He was a bearer of the extreme yang body, a rare constitution said to carry the yang energy of 100 men, a trait shared only by heroes from myth and legend. She was certain of it, having tested his impossible strength for herself during their kendo match. Realizing the gravity of her discovery, she resolved to report this to him as soon as possible. The scene then shifts to the next day. At a grand, traditional-looking estate, Yu-sung and Rika have arrived with Karen for their so-called strategy session. However, Yu-sung's sheer presence immediately causes a misunderstanding. One of Karen's family retainers, a man with a prominent scar, is completely stunned by Yu-sung's intimidating physique. He feels a dangerous aura emanating from the boy. Convinced he's a spy from a rival organization, the man shouts for the young lady to get back, warning her of the danger. Karen quickly scolds him, retorting that her friends are here to help, not cause trouble. The man is still in disbelief, unable to accept that someone so imposing could be a mere high schooler. Inside, Yu-sung, now in an apron, tells Karen it's fine, as he's used to people getting the wrong idea. Still, he admits he's not sure how much help he can be with her love troubles. Rika immediately objects, insisting that a guy's perspective is exactly what they need for this mission. And so Operation Win Sakamoto's Heart begins. Rika declares that the first step is to master cooking. As she puts it, nothing says I care like a home-cooked meal, and they can trust the legendary love guru, Kishimoto Rika. Yu-sung can only cringe at her shameless self-promotion. With everyone reluctantly on board, the cooking lesson officially kicks off. Several hours pass by on the clock. And finally, with a triumphant cry, Karen reveals her very first homemade bento. Rika enthusiastically cheers her on, praising her hard work and effort. However, a quick flashback reveals the disastrous truth of the cooking session. Karen's skills were so catastrophic that she managed to summon the scorched spirit of the food itself. Yu-sung could only stare with a deadpan expression, recognizing the classic rom-com heroine's terrible cooking trope playing out in real life. The smell of their failed attempts had only made him hungry, so he offered to whip up a quick dinner for everyone. The girls watch on, wondering if he's all talk. Without another word, he gets to work, masterfully handling the wok, with a skill that sends flames erupting from the pan. Karen and Rika can only watch in absolute awe. In no time at all, a plate of perfectly cooked fried rice is ready. It looks amazing, and it tastes even better. The girls dig in, completely blown away by his culinary skills. Rika, with her cheeks full, asks him when he became such a good cook. He explains that he started making his own bento back in his first year of high school, because he felt bad seeing how tired his mom always was. It was a struggle at first, but he gradually got the hang of it over time. Rika is deeply moved by his thoughtful and heartwarming story. He then turns the question on her, asking who makes her lunch. She proudly declares that her mama packs hers with lots of love. The fun dinner banter reminds Rika of their mission. She announces she has something for Tojo. She pulls out a neatly wrapped paper bag, tied with a cute pink bow. A flustered Karen accepts the gift, gratefully thanking her. Rika explains that she went to a cosmetic shop and picked out everything Karen might need, even including a note with basic skincare steps. She then tells Karen that once she gets used to makeup and secures her date, they'll go clothes shopping together. She thinks to herself that Karen's current sense of style is, well, a bit lacking for a teenage girl hoping to impress her crush. She bluntly tells Karen her everyday fashion sense is like that of a middle-aged uncle, a comment that pierces Karen's heart like an arrow. Completely defeated by the harsh truth, Karen can only meekly agree. Watching the chaos, Yu-sung smiles, promising to step in if their makeover plans get too out of hand. Rika is ecstatic, encouraging Karen to work hard on her makeup to finally land that date. With that, Rika declares it's time for the girls' transformation, telling Yu-sung to wait while they work their magic, since it's lame for a guy to see the process. She excitedly pulls a nervous Karen away, leaving Yu-sung alone to sit and wait. He's left to ponder the mysterious and confusing world of female beauty standards. Later that night, as Yu-sung and Rika walk home, he reflects that the day was surprisingly fun. He finds himself genuinely rooting for Tojo, hoping she successfully gets her date with Sakamoto. He spots a convenience store and asks Rika if she minds stopping so he can pick up the new weekly manga. Rika's eyes light up, enthusiastically saying she wants to as well. Inside, he grabs the latest issue of his favorite series. Rika happily quotes her dad, saying that people who love manga can't be bad. Yu-sung turns to her and asks that you also buy Manhwa every week, right? She says yes, that means I am good girl. Yu-sung pauses for a moment, then gives her a surprisingly sincere look. He tells her that he does think she's a good person. He explains that anyone who can spend their whole day working so hard for someone else is, in his opinion, truly a good person. The unexpected and heartfelt compliment catches Rika completely off guard, and her face turns beet red. Stammering that he took too long, she quickly pays for her manga and bolts out of the store. This leaves a completely bewildered Yu-sung standing alone. He's left wondering, did she just have to run to the bathroom? The next day at school, the results of Rika's master plan are about to be unveiled. A buzz ripples through the hallway as students catch sight of a stunningly cute girl they don't recognize. They whisper amongst themselves, wondering if she's a new transfer student. They watch as she confidently strides down the hall, heading straight toward Class 2B. The girl walks right up to Ryuji Sakamoto's desk and places a wax-sealed envelope before him. It's Tojo Karen, completely transformed. She tells him this is a challenge, and that she wants him to go somewhere with her this weekend. Ryuji, utterly stunned by her glow-up, can only ask who in the world she is. Blushing, the newly confident Karen snaps back, asking what he's staring at. The stage is set in Shibuya, where Operation Win Sakamoto's Heart is about to enter its final phase. Rika is still buzzing from Karen's bold move back at school, gushing that her sheer power was insane and totally swoon-worthy. Flustered by the praise, Karen agrees they can drop the formalities and just call her by her first name, a suggestion Rika enthusiastically accepts, leaving Yu-sung to watch the blossoming friendship in silence. Now on their next mission, finding the perfect date outfit, Yu-sung finds himself in the most alien of territories, the women's clothing section, a place he thought he'd never set foot in his entire life. He'd tried to back out, but couldn't really say no, especially when Rika cheerfully explained that Karen had asked for help, and as her best friend and designated love guru, she had to tag along to supervise. Rika immediately spots a cute outfit in a high-end boutique and gets to work. With boundless energy, she grabs an anxious Karen and pulls her toward the racks, ready to begin the makeover. A whirlwind of fabric ensues as Rika piles one outfit after another onto a bewildered Karen. She then shoves the heap of clothes into Karen's arms and pushes her towards the fitting room. Karen nervously protests that such cute clothes won't suit her, but Rika just grins deviously, declaring that it's her time to shine. She dives into the fitting room, telling Karen to leave it to her big sis and hold still. Yusung is left outside, completely bewildered by the muffled cries from Karen about sensitive spots and to go easy. A moment later, a pair of nervous hands signal that the transformation is complete. Karen steps out, completely reborn in a stylish new outfit, looking shy but undeniably stunning. Rika proudly asks for his opinion, and Yusung gives a genuine smile, telling Karen that it looks great on her. Blushing, Karen can hardly believe the girl in the mirror is her, realizing that Rika's so-called magic hands were the real deal. But while our heroes are busy with their wholesome makeover, a much more sinister meeting is taking place at the Dusekai estate. This is the home of Tojo Karen, and a serious-looking group has assembled. At the head of the table sits a formidable figure, Tojo Naoto, the 6th chairman of the Dusekai, a man who carries the chilling alias, Naoto of the Blood Sea. He's just received a report that it seems his precious daughter Karen has taken a liking to someone. The news sends him into a silent rage as he slams his knife clean through the solid wood table. His subordinates stir, wondering which punk would have the audacity to approach their young lady. Naoto's aide, Sento, stands ready to deliver the full report. The chairman growls, demanding to know the name of the boy his daughter likes. Sento nervously pushes up his glasses and confirms the boy's name is Sakamoto Ryuji. He elaborates that Sakamoto attends the same private Ichigo Academy as Karen. Sento continues his report, explaining that he personally escorted the young lady to a salon for the first time just yesterday. And today, new charges appeared on her credit card, all from clothing stores at the department mall. Naoto's face twists into a mask of pure fury. He lets out a guttural roar, screaming Sakamoto's name as his temper finally explodes. His men rush to calm him down, pleading for him to control himself. Naoto, however, is already in motion, his mind set on a single purpose. He barks out an order for anyone free this weekend to report to him immediately. Their mission: to tail Karen on her date and make absolutely sure that the Sakamoto brat doesn't pull anything funny. And with that, the full force of the Dusekai leadership, including the chairman, his aide, and 8 key executives, are confirmed for Operation Overprotective Dad. Back with our trio, they're celebrating their successful shopping trip at a local burger joint. Rika dramatically complains that she's totally wiped out and doesn't even have the strength to chew anymore. They all dig into a well-deserved meal to refuel. Yusung deadpans that she seems to be chewing just fine, as Karen sincerely thanks Rika for all her help. Rika just brushes it off, saying that's what friends are for. Karen gets emotional, admitting that Rika has always been there for her. Looking at Yusung, Karen worries if one burger is enough for someone with his build. He tells her not to worry, offering to buy her as much as she wants. He insists he's fine, as he prefers rice over bread anyway. Karen is once again touched by his unexpectedly kind gesture, realizing he's done so much for her. She reflects that she used to think he was just some scary thug, but after getting to know him, she's discovered he has a surprisingly decent and caring side. Yusung catches her staring. He points out a bit of ketchup, sending a flustered Karen scrambling to wipe her cheek. Changing the subject, Rika asks Karen if she has a plan for tomorrow's big date. Karen proudly lays out her classic but utterly generic plan: cafe, movies, and then dinner. Rika immediately shoots it down with a resounding nope. The self-proclaimed love guru lectures her, insisting that a standard, boring plan will never capture the heart of her crush. She pulls out her phone, ready to unveil the perfect alternative. Instead of the movies, she proposes they go to an aquarium. The suggestion leaves Karen momentarily speechless. Rika then paints a vivid, romantic scene of gently shimmering waters and peacefully swaying fish. She describes the soft, dim lighting as the perfect atmosphere for a quiet, deep conversation that will bring them closer. With absolute faith in her love guru, Karen agrees to the new plan, while Yusung can only look on, thinking this is a recipe for disaster. As the sun sets, the successful day of preparations comes to an end. Yusung and Rika give Karen one last word of encouragement, telling her to go knock, "I'm dead tomorrow." With a final wave, a grateful Karen thanks them for everything and heads home, ready for her big day. Now alone, Yusung and Rika wave goodbye. Rika, never one to rest, immediately turns to Yusung with a sly grin, asking about his plans for tomorrow. He tells her he'll probably just spend the day at home reading manga. Her eyes light up with a brilliant idea, suggesting that they should tail Karen on her date together. Yusung is horrified, arguing that he has a right to use his own weekend however he wants. But Rika is relentless, declaring with fiery eyes that as comrades in love, they have to see this mission through for Karen's happiness. Defeated, Yusung sighs and agrees, unable to decide if Rika is just incredibly righteous or a massive busybody. Rika celebrates their victory with a high five, officially forming the Rika and Yusung support duo. The next day, as the sun begins to set, the city is abuzz with activity. A pair of passers-by suddenly stop in their tracks, their eyes wide with shock at a figure approaching. Even a small child can't help but point out the man's bizarre hair and intimidating presence. It's none other than Tojo Naoto, in a ridiculous trenchcoat disguise, arriving at the date location. He declares that this is the place where his daughter will have her very first date. After an eventful day of preparations, the moment of truth has finally arrived. Karen's big date with Sakamoto. The morning sun shines brightly over Shibuya, setting the perfect stage for a budding romance. Dressed in her stylish new outfit, Karen waits nervously, when suddenly she hears her name. It's Sakamoto, waving cheerfully as he jogs toward her. He flashes a charming smile, apologizing for being a few minutes late and asking if she'd been waiting long. Playing it cool, Karen reassures him that she just got there herself, a light blush dusting her cheeks. Sakamoto is momentarily stunned. He can't help but notice how amazing Karen looks in her casual clothes, a far cry from her usual tough girl image. His genuine compliment catches her off guard, and her heart skips a beat. The two are a little awkward as they start their date, with Sakamoto shyly thanking her for coming out. To break the ice, Karen nervously suggests they grab a drink first and figure out their schedule for the day. Sakamoto readily agrees, and in a gentlemanly move, offers to carry the gift box she's holding. But they're not alone. Hidden from view, the Rika and Yusung support duo is already on the scene, watching their hard work pay off. Rika is ecstatic, noting how flustered Karen is. She tells Yusung this is the perfect mood for a first date. With their targets on the move, Rika gives the signal, and Operation Tail the Date officially begins. However, our support duo aren't the only ones keeping a close eye on the happy couple. From across the street, a much more intimidating group is also watching. It's Tojo Naoto, and his face is a thundercloud of rage. Tisk, that punk. He completely loses it, infuriated that Sakamoto dared to keep his precious daughter waiting for 5 whole minutes. His aide, Sento, tries to calm him down, pointing out a bigger problem. Their so-called disguises are attracting a lot of unwanted attention. Naoto is baffled, exclaiming that their disguises are flawless. But Sento has to explain the obvious. A group of 9 imposing figures stomping around together is anything but subtle. Thinking on his feet, Sento suggests a new strategy. They should split into smaller groups of 2 to blend in better. Naoto agrees, and the Yakuza surveillance team regroups. Meanwhile, Yusung and Rika have followed the couple into a nearby cafe to continue their stakeout, and it seems Rika is taking the support part of their mission very seriously, having ordered a gigantic picture-perfect strawberry parfait. Yusung can only stare in disbelief as Rika happily snaps photos of her dessert, wondering if she can possibly finish it all by herself. Rika just scoffs, teasing Yusung and asking if he can't even handle a single parfait at a cafe. But as they sit down, Yusung notices something strange. The cafe is filled with some very conspicuous-looking men. In fact, the place seems to be packed with stern-faced older guys, all trying way too hard to look casual. Yusung feels a growing sense of dread. This is way too suspicious. Something is definitely off about this whole situation. His eyes lock onto one man in particular, a tall figure with long red hair and a horribly unconvincing disguise. A cold sweat runs down his back. Even with the weird wig, there's an undeniable resemblance. He looks just like Karen. Yusung's instincts are screaming. He's getting a seriously bad vibe, realizing these must be the men from the Tojo estate. Completely oblivious to the multiple surveillance teams tracking them, Karen and Sakamoto happily plan the rest of their day. Sakamoto excitedly points out that the aquarium they're heading to has a dolphin show. Karen's eyes light up with pure joy. Today is going to be so much fun. Watching them, Yusung can only sigh in resignation. With an overprotective Yakuza chairman and his entire top brass in the same cafe, this date is probably going to be a rough ride. Soon, the group makes their way to Shibuya Station to catch a train to the aquarium. The train is packed, and Karen finds herself squished against Sakamoto in the dense crowd. Not far away, Rika and Yusung are also caught in the crush. As the train lurches, Rika stumbles forward. Yusung acts fast, bracing his arm against the wall to shield her from the jostling passengers. The sudden closeness and the press of the crowd leaves Rika flustered and wide-eyed. He leans in, telling her to just bear with the discomfort for a little while longer. They'll be there soon. His unexpected act of kindness makes Rika's heart pound in her chest, and she can only nod in agreement. But as the doors open, a huge wave of people surges out, threatening to sweep Karen and Sakamoto away from them. Crap, we'll lose them! Without a second thought, Yusung grabs Rika's hand. He pulls her along, shouting for her to follow him as he weaves through the chaotic station. They burst out of the station, finally arriving in Ikebukuro. Panting, they catch their breath, a silent moment passing between them as they realize they're still holding hands. Rika is the first to speak, shyly asking if he could let go of her hand now. Yusung jumps, quickly apologizing and releasing her hand as if it were on fire. She looks down, a soft blush on her cheeks, and murmurs that next time, maybe he could hold it a little more gently. Next time? A flustered Yusung can only stare, his mind racing to understand what she just said. His internal panic is cut short by a much more urgent problem. They missed the signal. In all the chaos, they've lost sight of the main couple. Luckily, they spot Karen and Sakamoto crossing the street just ahead of them. Rika throws her hands up in frustration, wondering how they're supposed to catch up now. Yusung, ever the pragmatist, points out that since they know the final destination is the aquarium, they just need to head straight there. It seems the Yakuza are also having trouble navigating the weekend crowds, complaining about how packed it is. As Yu-sung and Rika hurry past, he grumbles that Rika should have just driven, an idea she dismisses immediately. He pulls his hood low over his face, a knot of tension forming in his stomach. These are definitely the same men he saw at Karen's house. He whispers to Rika to stay cautious, as it seems they haven't been recognized yet. But it's too late. Chairman Naoto's sharp gaze has already locked onto the suspicious-looking kid in the hoodie. He points them out to Sento, who quickly identifies them as the young lady's friends, Yu-sung and Rika. Sento reminds the chairman that these two came to the estate the other day to help Karen prepare for this very date. Naoto's expression softens slightly. He had initially feared Yu-sung was a scout from another gang, but now he understands. They must just be worried friends. Sento points out that since they've already lost sight of Karen, following her friends is their best bet. Naoto agrees. With a new target in their sights, Operation Overprotective Dad changes course. They'll tail the tailors. Finally, Karen and Sakamoto arrive at the aquarium, both of them buzzing with excitement. But, just as they're about to head inside, they're spotted by a couple of familiar and very unwelcome faces. It's the two delinquents that Sakamoto dealt with back at school, looking worse for wear in neck braces and bandages. They can't believe their eyes. Isn't that Sakamoto? That bastard. Not only did he get them kicked out of the kendo club, but now he's out enjoying a carefree date with some cute girl? Their eyes burn with resentment. This time, they swear they're not letting it slide. As Karen and Sakamoto enjoy the aquarium, Yu-sung and Rika continue their covert surveillance, peeking from behind a corner. The dim lighting can't hide the obvious chemistry between the two as they laugh and admire the fish, completely lost in their own world. From his hiding spot, Yu-sung watches them, a thoughtful expression on his face. He can tell one thing for certain. Seeing Karen's bright, genuine smile, their date is going far better than he ever imagined. With things going so smoothly, the support duo shares a proud smile, wondering if their mission is already a success. After the aquarium, the date continues at Minami Ikebukuro Park, a perfect spot for a romantic picnic. While spying, Yu-sung reveals an incredible picnic spread he prepared for himself and Rika. She's drooling over the kimbap, inari sushi, tempura, and more, proclaiming that even a stakeout requires proper meals. With a happy bite, Rika settles in to eat while keeping an eye on their targets. A short distance away, Karen and Sakamoto sit on their own blanket. The moment of truth has arrived as Karen presents the bento box she prepared. Her face is a mask of pure anxiety, her hands trembling as she offers Sakamoto the lunch she made. Rika notices how nervous Karen seems, but Yu-sung knows exactly why. This is the first time she's ever cooked for someone she likes. He recalls the text messages from the past few days, where Karen relentlessly asked him for cooking advice, practicing day and night for 3 whole days to perfect her bento. Finally, she nervously opens the box, revealing the fruits of her labor. Sakamoto's eyes go wide with amazement. He can't believe she made all of this herself, exclaiming that it looks incredible. She tells him she's made plenty, so he should eat as much as he wants. He grabs a rice ball to start. He takes a big, enthusiastic bite. Karen watches him with bated breath, her entire world seeming to stop as she waits for his verdict. A delighted smile spreads across Sakamoto's face. He loves it. A wave of pure relief and joy washes over Karen, her eyes sparkling with happiness. All her hard work paid off. Feeling more confident, she picks up a piece of fried chicken with her chopsticks and offers it to him. He happily accepts, taking a bite directly from her chopsticks. The simple, intimate gesture makes Karen blush from ear to ear. Sakamoto, with his cheeks full, gives her an enthusiastic thumbs up. The food is delicious. The picnic is a massive success, bringing the two even closer together. Meanwhile, the support duo enjoys their own delicious meal. Not to be outdone, Sakamoto returns the favor, offering a piece of food back to Karen. She's a little flustered by the attention, but he just smiles, clearly enjoying the moment. Overwhelmed with happiness, she hides her blushing face behind her hands. Rika sighs contentedly, observing that the two of them are doing incredibly well. Watching the perfect date unfold, Rika gets a dreamy look in her eyes, whispering that she wants to go on a date like that someday too. Her sudden, heartfelt comment catches Yu-sung completely off guard. He can't resist teasing her, poking her cheek and questioning her credentials as a self-proclaimed love guru. Rika comically confesses that she's never actually dated anyone, and learned everything she knows from reading manga. Yu-sung sighs in disbelief, realizing all her confident advice was just theory. As the main couple starts to pack up, he tells her it's time to go. She protests, insisting that she's genuinely helped many of her friends with their love lives, but he's not buying it. Yu-sung just smirks, finding her frantic excuses endearing. As the sun shines down, a warm and comfortable atmosphere settles over the park. Karen and Sakamoto take a leisurely stroll, the vibe between them more romantic than ever. From behind a tree, Rika and Yu-sung watch them, speculating that a confession might be just around the corner. But Yu-sung's keen eyes suddenly spot trouble ahead. His expression instantly turns serious. The gift box Sakamoto was holding now lies dropped on the pavement. Their peaceful date is suddenly interrupted by two very unwelcome faces. It's the two delinquents from the kendo club, and they're grinning maliciously, clearly looking for revenge. Sakamoto and Karen are shocked to see them here. The support duo is equally stunned by the sudden turn of events. The thugs immediately start running their mouths, accusing Sakamoto of being a two-timing player for being on a date with a new girl. Rika is furious at the injustice, while Yu-sung assesses the situation, ready to intervene if things go south. Sakamoto glares at them, demanding to know what they want. Yu-sung instantly recognizes them. They're the first-year freshmen who were kicked out of the kendo club. He remembers what another student, Fuma, had told Karen. Some kendo club members had cornered her in an alley, and Sakamoto had been the one to save her. The delinquents confirm it, blaming Sakamoto for getting them kicked out of the club they had just joined. They whine that because of him, they can no longer see their precious Fuma-senpai. Hearing their pathetic excuse, Karen's temper flares. She furiously yells at them, telling them they're absolute idiots, and that their attitude is exactly why they got kicked out. Startled by her outburst, the delinquents finally recognize her, though they note they almost didn't with all her makeup on. Karen grits her teeth, annoyed that her tough girl identity has been exposed. One of the thugs sneers, mocking her for trying to play dress-up, and telling her to stay where she belongs, roughing people up in the dirt. Both Sakamoto and Karen are seething at the insults. Sakamoto steps forward protectively, shielding Karen and telling the goons to shut their mouths, warning them not to talk about her like that. But the punks just laugh, revealing they didn't come alone this time. They shout for their backup, and a much larger, more intimidating figure emerges. A smug, blonde-haired man steps forward, identifying himself as the one whose boys Sakamoto messed with. The delinquents proudly introduce him as their big bro, Hayashi, a supposed legend from Kitayama. Sensing real danger, Sakamoto tells Karen to run, insisting he's the one they're after. But Karen fiercely refuses, shouting that she could never leave him alone in a situation like this. Before they can argue further, Hayashi scoffs and lunges forward, grabbing Karen by the arm. His grip is tight, and Karen cries out in surprise and pain. The thug smirks, telling her to forget this loser and come have fun with him instead. Seeing Karen being manhandled, Sakamoto roars in anger. Hayashi speaks that Sakamoto is in the way. He lunges forward and throws a powerful punch right into the Sakamoto's gut. Watching from afar, Yu-sung's eye twitches, his calm demeanor finally cracking. Rika gasps in shock. Hayashi mocks Sakamoto's pathetic attempt. Sakamoto stumbles and falls to the ground, as Hayashi takes hold of Karen once more. Just as Hayashi is about to drag Karen away, a hand clamps down on his wrist, stopping him dead in his tracks. Hayashi turns, annoyed, asking who the hell is interrupting him. It's Yu-sung. His grip tightens with bone-crushing force, a dark, menacing aura beginning to radiate from him. With a flick of his wrist, Yu-sung sends the much larger man flying backward, shocking everyone. His face is a mask of cold fury. The friendly, quiet Yu-sung is gone, replaced by someone far more dangerous. He warns the thugs that he doesn't say things twice. With ice in his voice, he utters a simple command. "Keep your filthy hands off my friend." The delinquents are stunned into silence, their boss still sprawled on the ground after being sent flying. Hayashi scrambles up, furious, accusing Yu-sung of sucker punching him and acting high and mighty. He tries to brush it off as a lucky shot, thinking this guy is just some well-built civilian who knows how to scrap. But their little scuffle is watched by another group, led by Karen's father. His eyes lock onto Yu-sung, and he immediately starts to sweat, his expression turning grave. A little earlier, this group had been rushing through the park, with the afro-haired man wondering where the punks had gone. The afro-haired man suddenly spots them in the distance, cupping his hand to his ear to listen in. They see Hayashi manhandling Karen, who is desperately trying to fight him off while screaming at him to let go. The red-haired boss explodes with rage, roaring about who gave the punk permission to touch her wrist. His underling asks if they should grab their weapons, but the boss holds him back with a bead of sweat on his face. He tells his men to stand down, deciding it's just a kid's scuffle, but instructs them to watch Yu-sung closely. A suffocating, dark purple aura begins to pour out from Yu-sung. The boss feels the overwhelming pressure, and his hand begins to tremble uncontrollably. His eyes widen in terror as he recognizes this bone-chilling sensation, his hand instinctively going to his throat. It's the same aura he once felt from the terrifying boss of the Russian Red Mafia, a man known only as Ivan the Destroyer. He remembers the one time he ran into the monster by chance here in Japan, a memory that still chills him to the bone. It was the exact same feeling, an overwhelming presence that inspires pure, unadulterated fear. He's both fascinated and terrified, wondering how on earth a simple student named Kim Yu-sung could possess the same aura of darkness as a legendary underworld figure. Yu-sung, oblivious to his new audience, grits his teeth in pure rage, a shadow covering his eyes. He decides right then and there to forget the original plot. From now on, he's just going to take out the trash in front of him. A wave of killing intent rolls off him as he takes a deliberate step forward. He orders Karen to take Sakamoto and leave, telling her he'll handle this. Karen, her eyes filled with tears, starts to protest, refusing to leave him behind. Enraged at being completely ignored, Hayashi screams and charges at Yusung. The thug stomps the ground and rushes in for an attack, determined to put this upstart in his place. He unleashes a vicious flurry of punches, hammering them into Yusung's body with blinding speed. His two lackeys cheer him on, marveling at the sheer speed of his fists, which are moving so fast they can only see after images. Hayashi continues his relentless assault, yelling that his opponent can't even dodge. Suddenly, he stops, his eyes wide with utter disbelief as he stares at his opponent. Despite the barrage of blows, Yusung hasn't moved an inch, taking every hit without even flinching. Frustrated, Hayashi grits his teeth and decides to switch things up, winding up for an even more powerful blow. He pulls back his fist, channeling all his power into a single, devastating punch aimed right at Yusung's face. The blow lands with a sickening thud, the impact echoing through the park. Rika lets out a terrified gasp from her hiding spot, her hand flying to her mouth. Karen screams out Yusung's name, her face pale with fear for her friend. Blood begins to pour from a fresh gash on Yusung's forehead, obscuring his vision. But even with blood streaming down his face, Yusung remains standing, an eerie stillness about him. A dangerous glint enters his eyes. From this point on, he declares, it officially counts as self-defense. Before Hayashi can even react, Yusung's fist is already flying toward him. The counterpunch connects perfectly with Hayashi's jaw, a flash of light marking the impact. Hayashi is launched into the air, completely knocked out by the single, powerful blow. The remaining delinquents can only cry out for their boss, watching in horror as he crumples to the ground. Yusung calmly states that since legitimate self-defense generally qualifies as a single hit, he had to bet everything on that punch, remarking that it was underwhelming. The two goons are frozen in place, their faces a mask of pure shock and terror. Yusung's cold eyes fix on them. He reminds them that they laid hands on his friends, and asks if they know what that means. Panicking, one of the thugs threatens to call the cops, boasting that his dad is a big shot on the force and will make Yusung pay. Unimpressed, Yusung calls it a cheap threat and says he'll just have to fix their rotten brains himself, grabbing both their heads in an iron grip. They immediately start screaming and begging for mercy as he applies his signature and incredibly painful iron claw technique. With a final shove, he throws them to the ground like sacks of garbage. He stands over them, his expression utterly devoid of emotion as they cower before him. He gives them one final warning: get lost, and never show their faces in front of Tojo or Sakamoto ever again. The terrified thugs don't need to be told twice, scrambling to their feet and running for their lives. As they flee, Rika comes running toward the scene, yelling at them to get out of there. Rika finally reaches Yusung, touching his arm to check his wound, but her face is contorted with worry and rage. She absolutely erupts, yelling at him for being a stupid, reckless idiot and demanding they go to the pharmacy right now. Yusung is completely stunned into silence, realizing this is the first time he's ever seen Rika so truly mad. Sometime later, as the sun begins to set, a newly bandaged Yusung and a still fuming Rika walk together through the park. They stop at a distance, watching Karen and Sakamoto, who are now sitting quietly on a park bench. Rika observes that the atmosphere between the two of them is incredibly awkward after everything that happened. A tiny chibi Yusung agrees, suggesting they should probably give them a minute alone. On the bench, Karen looks down, miserably apologizing to Sakamoto and blaming herself for him getting hurt. But Sakamoto tells her she has nothing to be sorry for, insisting that the thugs were after him from the start. An awkward silence hangs between them as Sakamoto looks away, completely flustered and unsure of what to say next. Finally, mustering every ounce of her courage, Karen turns to him, her face beet red as she prepares to confess. She tells him she truly likes him, leaving Sakamoto blushed. On the sideline, Rika and Yusung are already surprised that it actually happened. Having mustered all her courage, Karen finally asks Sakamoto to go out with her. Sakamoto is completely flustered, caught off guard by the sudden confession. But his response is not what she expected. He apologizes, turning her down. Karen puts on a brave face, seemingly unbothered by the rejection. She presses him for a reason, promising to change herself if he doesn't like her. But Sakamoto frantically insists that's not the issue. He explains that she's too good for him and that he has his own circumstances preventing him from dating. Sakamoto reveals his big secret. He promised to marry his childhood friend and can't date anyone until he meets her again. With this declaration, he firmly shuts down any possibility of a relationship between them. The weight of his words finally hits Karen, and her hopeful expression crumbles into one of pure heartbreak. He admits he's not even sure if he still loves his first love, but he remembers liking her a lot, enough to have cried when she moved away. With a heavy heart, Karen quietly confirms that this mystery girl was his first love. Having heard enough, she abruptly stands up, deciding to end the painful conversation. She forces a bright smile, telling him she'll give up cleanly, and waving a cheerful goodbye as if her heart isn't breaking. Sakamoto, looking both relieved and a little guilty, can only manage a simple yeah as he waves back. The moment she's out of his sight, Karen's facade shatters, and she runs away as fast as she can. From their hiding spot, Rika and Yusung watch the aftermath, Rika looking utterly devastated for her friend. Yusung suddenly tells Rika to head home without him, a serious look on his face. Before a confused Rika can protest, he's already gone, leaving her to wonder what's gotten into him. Yusung sprints off, a sad determination in his eyes as he goes after Karen. The scene shifts to a lonely bus stop, bathed in the light of the setting sun. Karen sits alone on the bench, looking completely dejected after her failed confession. Suddenly, a pair of sneakers enters her field of view, and she looks up. It's Yusung, who gently asks if she's okay. His simple question is all it takes to break the dam, and tears begin to stream down her face. He lets out a soft "geez" before offering her a handkerchief, telling her not to fall apart. In a clumsy attempt to cheer her up, he holds the cloth to her nose and tells her to take deep breaths. Wiping her eyes, Karen admits that this is embarrassing, as she's never cried in front of anyone before. She then mutters the word "friends," the term taking on a new, complicated meaning. To Yusung's utter shock, Karen reveals she knew he and Rika were following them the whole time. Yusung immediately breaks into a cold sweat, realizing how little she must have trusted him to go through with the date alone. Karen smirks through her tears, teasing that her coaches must have been really worried to have watched her all day. Her playful mood quickly fades as she apologizes for failing the confession after all their help. She confesses that she'd hoped changing her appearance would be enough to win back Sakamoto's heart, but now she understands the painful truth. There was never any room for her in his heart to begin with, a realization that hurts more than anything. Yusung listens silently, his expression unreadable as she pours out her heart. Trembling, Karen admits she's never felt this kind of agonizing pain before in her life. Finally, she breaks down completely, screaming that she truly, really loved him. Watching her, Yusung has a startling realization. This is strange. He'd always thought of his friends as just side characters from the manga, Scramble Love. He had always kept a clear line drawn in his heart, seeing them all as fictional characters, unlike him. But looking at Karen, crying her heart out with such raw, vivid pain, he questions everything. How can he call someone who feels so deeply just a manga character? He stands up abruptly, startling Karen, and tells her to get on her feet. With a mock-serious expression, he scolds her, warning that if she keeps lying around crying, someone will call the cops. Stunned into silence, Karen can only stare up at him, her tears momentarily forgotten. The sheer absurdity of his words breaks through her grief, and a small laugh escapes her lips. She playfully chides him for his choice of words, and he replies that her smile suits her much better than tears. Without another word, he pulls off his hoodie, much to Karen's surprise. He hands it to her, telling her to put it on, because they're leaving. Gently, he pulls the hood over her head, announcing they're going to karaoke. He tells her the plan is to scream out all her bad luck and pent-up sadness. As he starts to lead the way, a flustered Karen calls for him to wait. She hurries to catch up, remarking on how random he always is. As they run through the twilight, Yusung realizes that these people, her friends, are just like him. Real people with real emotions. For the first time all evening, a genuine smile spreads across his face as she runs alongside him. Tucked inside his hoodie, she looks happy and at peace. Meanwhile, back in the car, Karen's father's men are overcome with emotion, wiping away tears. They look on with a soft expression, remarking that Yusung is a good kid and that they're glad she has a friend like him. The stoic boss watches them go, lost in thought. He reflects that in a world as harsh as theirs, kids with hearts like Yusung's are a rare find. A small smile plays on his lips as he hopes their paths will cross again someday, a new respect dawning for the young man. The scene cuts to a karaoke room, where a chibi Karen is belting out a song, demanding Yusung sing louder. A deeply unenthusiastic Yusung can only look on in misery as she tells him it's his turn next. Elsewhere, Rika sits in her room, staring at her tablet with a flustered expression, likely keeping tabs on her friends. Rika's eyes sparkle with excitement as she exclaims at the novelty of being in a boy's room for the first time. Her jaw drops, however, when she gets a full view of Yusung's room, which looks more like a professional gym than a high schooler's bedroom. She wonders aloud if all boys keep so much workout equipment, to which Yusung awkwardly replies that his case is probably not the norm. Spotting a pair of dumbbells on the floor, Rika decides to give them a try. She strains with all her might, but the weights don't even budge, making her question if they were even designed for humans to lift. Yusung deadpans that of course she can't lift them, as they probably weigh about half as much as she does. His comment leaves Rika utterly flabbergasted by the sheer weight of the dumbbells. Yusung then flashes back, wondering how this whole situation even started. It all began on their usual walk to the subway after school. As they were walking, a loud growl suddenly erupted from Rika's stomach. The sound effect left both of them momentarily stunned and embarrassed. Noticing her hunger, Yusung casually suggested they stop by his family's restaurant for a bite to eat. Rika's eyes lit up, suddenly remembering that his family ran a restaurant. Yusung, thinking a single meal wouldn't be a problem, smiled and agreed. Soon, they arrive at a building that seems to house both his home and the family restaurant on the ground floor. Inside, Rika doesn't hold back, devouring the delicious meal with gusto. She eats heartily, chugging down a can of soda while Yusung eats his own meal more calmly. After finishing, she lets out a satisfied sigh, clearly enjoying every last bite. Rika gives Yusung's mother 2 enthusiastic thumbs up, declaring her cooking to be absolutely amazing. His mother is overjoyed, remarking on what a pleasure it is to watch someone eat so well. Rika happily thanks her for the meal. Yusung watches the two interact, noting to himself that his mom seems to have taken a real liking to Rika. Fully energized after her meal, Rika suddenly slaps Yusung on the back, announcing that it's time for them to go. A confused Yusung, caught mid-sip, asks where they could possibly be going now. With a playful wink, Rika points a finger and declares that their next stop is, of course, his room. Back in the present, Yusung sighs, admitting he was a fool for thinking nothing weird would happen with a girl as unpredictable as Rika. He enters his room carrying a tray with 2 iced drinks, ready to settle in, but he stops short, surprised to see Rika already snooping around his bookshelf. She's found a rom-com manga and teases him about his taste. Yusung gets flustered, thinking that he only bought the rom-coms for, reference, in the future. It's not the original, Scramble Love, and that he just thought he couldn't have too many references. Rika just laughs, telling him she's kidding, and that she knows he's more of a shonen manga fan. Her eyes then land on a specific title on his shelf, Golden Samurai. Yusung's whole demeanor changes as he pulls a volume from the shelf, a fond smile on his face as he admits it's his all-time favorite series. Rika is shocked and ecstatic. She excitedly tells him she loves it too, and he shares that he still rereads it from the beginning whenever he thinks about it. She marvels at the fact that he owns the first editions, which are incredibly hard to find. Yusung looks at the book with reverence, calling the manga a true masterpiece. Rika's eyes widen in agreement, completely in sync with his passion for the series. He gets completely carried away, praising the gorgeous art, the strong ending, the excellent character psychology, and the masterful foreshadowing. Rika is in awe of his deep appreciation. Beaming with joy, Rika exclaims that her papa is going to be over the moon when he hears about this. A tiny, confused Yusung wonders what her father has to do with anything. Rika smiles sheepishly, realizing she'd never mentioned it before. She then drops a bombshell. Her father is a mangaka. Her next words hit him like a lightning bolt. Her father is none other than Kishimoto Musashi, the creator of Golden Samurai. Yusung's brain short-circuits as he tries to process this monumental revelation. Rika is the daughter of a living legend. The pieces suddenly click into place in his mind. The last name Kishimoto, while common, was the same. Her unique blonde hair made sense now, as he'd heard Musashi's wife was British. He mentally kicks himself for not noticing the most classic cliché ever, the classmate with a famous parent. He'd even been to her house during Golden Week. Overcome with emotion, he grabs Rika by the shoulders, his eyes wide with a desperate plea. He asks, with tears in his eyes, if there's any chance he could get her dad's autograph during the upcoming Golden Week. Rika happily agrees, promising to introduce him to her father personally. This news sends Yusung into a state of pure, unadulterated fanboy bliss. Still on cloud 9, Yusung asks Rika a question that's been on his mind. With her dad having so many hit series, he's curious why Golden Samurai is her favorite. Rika gets a thoughtful look on her face, explaining that while she loves all her father's work, this particular series has really grown on her recently. Yusung listens intently, intrigued by her answer. Rika continues, a gentle smile on her face as she mentions Volume 5 in particular. She explains that seeing the main character of the story, a lone samurai who always puts his friends first, no matter the cost. The image of the samurai saying, "Don't you dare lay those dirty hands on my friend," flashes through her mind. It's immediately followed by a flashback to Yusung's own intense moment, defending his friends with the exact same fierce determination. She trails off, simply saying that the character's strength and gentleness reminded her of someone, her eyes filled with a soft admiration. The scene shifts to the next day, bringing us to the school building. Yusung is inside the student council room. The student council president, Kumiko, reminds him of his promise to help her during Golden Week. He listens as she explains that she needs help with 2 things, ditching a scary teacher and picking out a gift. He learns that the school is receiving an exchange student from a sister school in Russia after the break, and she wants to prepare a memorable welcome gift. Yusung readily agrees to help her go shopping for the gift. He pulls out his phone to schedule it, suggesting the 29th, the first day of the break. Kumiko's eyes sparkle with delight. With the plan set, Kumiko warns him not to break his promise, to which Yusung casually agrees, not realizing the weight of her words. As he leaves the student council room, he notes her suddenly cheerful mood. He sighs, thinking he'll just have to ask Rika if they can move their plan to meet her father to the 30th instead. He walks back towards his classroom, Class 2B. As he enters, a classmate immediately calls out to him, asking if he's heard the latest news. The classmate reminds him of the infamous troublemakers from the first year, the ones who got kicked out of the kendo club. He explains that both of them suddenly made a huge fuss and submitted transfer requests that very day. The classmate laughs, finding it weird that they're both transferring at the same time and wondering if something else happened. Yoosung just smiles faintly, thinking to himself that what happened wasn't that big a deal. He reflects that they probably have their reasons, but at least this means they won't be harassing Tojo and Sakamoto anymore, which serves them right. Just then, their teacher enters the classroom, announcing that class has already started. The teacher playfully scolds the class for their tardiness on the first Monday of the week. With a bright smile, she tells everyone to take their seats and open their English textbooks right away. 15. In English class, the teacher poses a question. Rika is clearly not paying attention, drooling in the class. The class is being led by their new, cheerful English teacher, Mizuki Nane. To answer the question, she decides to call on a student based on the day's date, the 24th. The student in seat 24 breaks into a cold sweat, but it's a fake-out. She's calling on the person behind number 24, which sends the previously terrified student into a state of bliss and Yoosung into a state of shock. Reluctantly, Yoosung stands up to answer. He flawlessly reads the passage from the English textbook. The other students murmur in awe. It's his 7th perfect score in a row. The teacher then asks him a follow-up question, eager to hear his response. What would be a perfect tourist location? Yoosung takes a moment to think, a bead of sweat on his face. He gives a thoughtful and detailed recommendation for a tourist. He recommends Osaka because it is a place that is visited by many foreigners and tourism resources, such as Kyoto, Nara, and Kobe. Hearing his response leaves the teacher utterly speechless. He can't help but wonder why she's reacting so strangely to his perfect answer. Mizuki-sensei claps her hands, praising him effusively as the rest of the class applauds. Rika watches on, amused, but Yoosung isn't fooled. Her face looks less impressed, and more like she secretly hated his answer. She continues to praise him, calling him Yu-chan. Yoosung narrows his eyes, sensing something is definitely off with his new teacher. She gets so flustered she can't even remember the point of her own question. And in that moment, Yoosung figures it all out. He was right. She's so startled that she drops her chalk, confirming his suspicion. Mizuki-sensei seems to be scared of him. Later, as Yoosung walks through the school halls, he overhears students whispering about him, comparing his intimidating presence to that of a Yakuza heir. He sees the genuine fear in their eyes as they scurry away. Realizing his reputation precedes him more than he thought, he resolves to act as normal as possible from now on. He arrives at the faculty room, determined to maintain a plain and normal demeanor. Inside, Mizuki-sensei is furiously typing at her computer, clearly on edge. It seems she's doing a little digging on her terrifying new student. But what she finds completely shatters her expectations. His student record shows a model student, top of his class and student council secretary. She can't believe it. Her mind immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. The Yakuza rumor must be true, and he's just pretending to be a model student while secretly plotting against her. She's completely lost in a paranoid fantasy, her imagination running wild with fear. She pictures a terrifying version of Yoosung introducing himself with a maniacal grin. Just then, the real Yoosung enters, and she lets out a terrified shriek before awkwardly trying to welcome him in. Yoosung deadpans internally. He never said she was nervous. She's just blatantly terrified of him. This is going to be a headache. He calmly states he's here for the career counseling she mentioned. Hearing this, Mizuki-sensei visibly deflates with relief, her tense expression replaced by a sheepish smile. She asks him to take a seat and begins the session, asking about his future career plans. When he admits he's unsure, she cautiously brings up the possibility of him taking over the family business. The mere mention of it sends her spiraling again, picturing Yoosung as a ruthless gang leader. Trembling, she decides to ask directly about his parents' profession. He plainly tells her they run a small set-menu restaurant, leaving her utterly bewildered. The relief is instantaneous. She beams, enthusiastically saying she'd love to visit his family's restaurant sometime. Yoosung sighs, hoping the major misunderstanding has finally been cleared up. The counseling continues, with Mizuki asking which subjects he excels in. Hearing he's good at math and science, she suggests a STEM major might be a good fit. However, she's once again caught off guard by his response. Yoosung wisely states that being good at something isn't the same as loving it, and he wants to pursue a career he's truly passionate about. His words strike a deep chord with Mizuki. This triggers a painful memory from his own past. His reaction used to be so intense during his engineering days that it even gives a passing student a case of engineering PTSD. She confides in Yoosung, admitting that becoming a teacher wasn't her original plan. She makes him promise not to laugh at her confession. Her childhood dream, she reveals, was to become a voice actress. She fondly remembers her middle school days, when she was a huge fan of a robot anime. Her eyes sparkle as she recalls the character she fell in love with. But her dreams were crushed during a career counseling session, where her teacher dismissed her passion as a mere hobby. The teacher advised her to pursue a more stable and realistic career path instead. Though she followed his advice at the time, she came to deeply regret it in college, realizing she'd given up on her dream too easily. It was her life, yet she had let one person's opinion dictate her entire future. She offers Yoosung some heartfelt advice, not as his teacher, but as someone who understands the weight of his decision. Yoosung listens intently, moved by her sincerity. He sincerely thanks her for her guidance. Just as Yoosung leaves, Another teacher approaches Mizuki's desk. He asks if that was the infamous Kim Yusung, the subject of so many wild rumors. The teacher smirks, listing off the gossip he's heard, from Yusung being a Yakuza prince to single-handedly defeating a biker gang. But Mizuki quickly shuts him down, insisting those are all misunderstandings, and that Yusung is actually a very kind and thoughtful student. Yusung walks away, having left a surprisingly positive new impression on his teacher. Her colleague scratches his head, admitting he'll try not to judge students by their appearance from now on. Mizuki smiles, glad to have set the record straight. With the misunderstanding cleared, a sense of peace settles over Mizuki. The scene changes. It's now Golden Week, and we're in front of the famous Sensoji Temple in Asakusa, Tokyo. Yusung is already there, checking his phone and noting that he arrived for his meeting a bit early. He then spots a familiar girl in a purple dress waiting for him. It's the student council president, Kumiko. He calls out to her, but when she turns around, her face is a mask of pure fury. "You're late," she seethes, pointing an accusatory finger right at his face. Kumiko furiously berates Yusung, demanding to know if he has any concept of time. Yusung, bewildered, shows her his phone, pointing out that he's actually 10 minutes early for their meeting. But Kumiko schools him on proper etiquette, insisting a gentleman should always arrive 30 minutes early. Though he apologizes, Yusung can't help but think her logic is seriously flawed. Seizing the opportunity, she declares she'll forgive him this once, but only if he buys her a matcha ice cream from a nearby shop. Yusung is taken aback, questioning why he's the one paying for her made-up tardiness. Kumiko's smug chibi face says it all. It's a total knockout. He has no choice but to surrender to her absurd demands. Defeated, Yusung pays for the ice cream, resigning himself to the small loss as Kumiko beams with her prize. As they walk, Kumiko savors the taste of victory and matcha, while Yusung politely says he's glad she's enjoying it. He then tries to steer them back on track, asking where they should look for the exchange student's gift, which seems to catch Kumiko completely off guard. She quickly gets defensive, insisting she didn't forget, and telling him to follow her lead. But her flustered reaction tells Yusung otherwise. Just as her panic sets in, a voice in her earpiece addresses her as "young lady," revealing she's not alone. The voice gives her directions to a handicraft shop 2 blocks away, suggesting she take him there to choose the gift. Her backup is revealed, the Sayonji family butler and maid Akagi Minami and Akagi Shinjiro on a covert mission. They are currently operating from a nearby car, coaching her through what they've dubbed Lady Kumiko's successful date. Following the directions, they arrive at a shop, where an extravagant golden Buddha statue immediately catches their eye. The enthusiastic shopkeeper suggests the magnificent statue as a gift to decorate a home, much to their surprise. Kumiko, playing the part of a refined young lady, proudly boasts about her impeccable taste, honed since childhood. The shopkeeper is completely charmed, praising her discerning eye and offering to show her more treasures. But Yusung's jaw drops when he spots the price tag, a staggering 9 million won. As Yusung internally panics, Kumiko is shocked, having been caught up in her own act. The shopkeeper continues to praise her, but Kumiko suddenly gets the chills, looking visibly uncomfortable. As Yusung watches with concern, Minami's voice crackles in her earpiece, warning her to be quiet. Minami reminds her that she's supposed to be on a date, not shopping for priceless religious artifacts. She points out that Yusung is already looking bored, and keeping her partner engaged is the #1 rule of dating. A flustered Kumiko silently acknowledges her mistake, realizing she needs to change tactics fast. Without warning, Kumiko grabs Yusung's arm, catching him completely by surprise. She puts on a brilliant, if not slightly strained smile, telling the shopkeeper they have an urgent matter to attend to and drags Yusung out of the store. Once outside, a concerned Yusung asks if she's alright. She dismisses his concern, claiming she just felt a bit lightheaded, before eagerly suggesting they move on to the next location. Her handlers give her the next mission objective: head to a traditional clothing shop to browse kimonos and yukatas. They soon arrive at a shop filled with beautiful traditional Japanese garments. A kind shop attendant presents a handsome navy blue kimono, thinking it would be a perfect gift for the exchange student. Yusung turns to the president for her final verdict. Kumiko, however, seems unimpressed, coolly asking if this is the best the shop has to offer. She boldly declares that price is no object and demands to see their absolute finest piece, which instantly fires up the shop owner's competitive spirit. The owner proudly presents a stunning kimono, announcing its price tag of 500,000 yen, leaving Yusung momentarily speechless. Kumiko calls it not bad and asks to see more, while Yusung breaks into a cold sweat over her ever-growing budget. Time ticks by as Kumiko, playing the part of a picky princess, rejects every single option presented to her. Eventually, they've narrowed it down to 2 final options. To the exhausted Yusung, they both look perfectly fine. Seeing her indecision, the shop owner makes a clever suggestion. She tells Kumiko that trying them on herself might be the best way to make a final choice. The owner then turns to Yusung, asking if he agrees that it would help her decide. With Yusung's unwitting approval, the shopkeeper eagerly ushers a hesitant Kumiko towards the fitting room. But as soon as they're out of sight, a shocking transformation takes place. The shop owner was none other than her maid, Minami, in a masterfully crafted disguise, leaving Kumiko utterly stunned. Kumiko stammers in confusion, but Minami simply smiles, reminding her young lady that she'd do anything to support her. It turns out Minami isn't just a maid. She's a Saionji family ninja who used her skills to persuade the actual owner to lend them the shop for the day. Kumiko finally understands that the suggestion to try on the kimono was all part of Minami's grand plan to appeal to Yusung. Minami excitedly pushes the protesting Kumiko into the changing room, promising to make her look absolutely breathtaking. Meanwhile, an oblivious Yusung passes the time by playing games on his phone, wondering what's taking so long. He achieves a 9-hit combo and a glorious win, completely engrossed in his game. Just as he celebrates his victory, the sound of the fitting room door sliding open catches his attention. He looks up to see Kumiko emerging, her hair adorned with an elegant floral pin. The sight leaves him utterly speechless, a deep blush spreading across his face. Dressed in a stunning black kimono with a delicate floral pattern, she shyly asks for his opinion. The elegant garment perfectly complements her beauty, creating a truly breathtaking vision. Yusung can only stare, completely captivated by the sight before him. He averts his gaze for a second, trying to process the sudden rush of emotion. Kumiko, seeing his reaction, musters her courage for the next step of the plan. A hint of her own nervousness shows through her determined facade. Finally, Yusung finds his voice, though it comes out as a flustered whisper. He tells her she looks stunning. His sincere and direct compliment catches her completely off guard. He quickly adds that the kimono really suits her. Kumiko is left trembling slightly, his words echoing in her mind. Flustered but triumphant, Kumiko boasts that this is her true power, and a charmed Yusung can only agree that she looks amazing. Buoyed by her success, she announces she's going to try on the yukata next, and disappears back into the changing room. As the door slides shut, Kumiko takes a moment to herself. Leaning against the door, her composure finally breaks as she tries to calm her racing heart. Overwhelmed by Yusung's reaction, she clutches her burning cheeks, wondering what on earth she's gotten herself into. His genuine compliment has thrown her completely for a loop, leaving her a flustered, happy mess. A man's eyes widen, his face blushing as he glances over his shoulder. It's not just him. Other pedestrians are also turning their heads, captivated by a stunning presence. A radiant Kumiko walks alongside Yusung, turning heads wherever she goes. She takes in the sights, remarking that this is the famous Nakano Broadway, while Yusung notes how much she stands out. Having seemingly picked up what they needed, Yusung suggests they find a place for lunch, but Kumiko, ever the high roller, offers to call a car, leaving Yusung flustered by her next-level scale. He urges her to move quickly, noting that they're attracting a lot of attention. Suddenly, his eyes catch a familiar-looking pair in the distance. He squints, wondering what that was just now. He dismisses it as just a couple taking a selfie, though for a moment, he thought they were being photographed. As they walk away, the Sala couple is revealed to be her handlers, Shinjiro and Minami, snapping pictures for their mission report. Minami breathes a sigh of relief, thinking they almost got caught. She furiously whispers at Shinjiro, reminding him she told him not to get so close. Shinjiro defends himself, saying he needs good shots for his report, before grumbling about how clueless Yusung is to have the young lady's affection. Minami warns him to keep his personal feelings in check, especially in front of Kumiko. The two handlers continue their covert surveillance, trailing the couple through the busy streets. Yusung leads Kumiko into a small restaurant with a chime at the door. He proudly announces that this is his go-to ramen place. After they take a seat, he tells her to look at the menu while he quickly visits the restroom. The moment he's gone, Shinjiro doubles over, clutching his stomach in sudden pain. A concerned Minami asks what's wrong, as her brother breaks into a cold sweat. He blames the ice cream he ate earlier, but Minami isn't having it, scolding him for eating so much and telling him to leave once Kumiko has started her meal. Unable to hold it in any longer, Shinjiro apologizes and makes a desperate sprint for the restroom. His sister can only sigh at his lack of professionalism. He finds the men's room, just in the nick of time. After a moment of sweet relief, Shinjiro emerges from the stall, feeling much better. But as he walks toward the basin, he's greeted by an unexpected sight: Yusung washing his hand. Yusung is stunned, recognizing him as the vice president, and wondering about the astronomical odds of them meeting here. Back at the table, the chime rings as the door opens once more. Kumiko looks up, expecting to see Yusung, but her smile freezes on her face. To her absolute horror, Yusung walks in with none other than her two handlers, Minami and Shinjiro, in tow. Yusung cheerfully announces that he ran into the vice president and Minami-senpai by chance. Thinking he's being a good host, he explains that since he's always indebted to them, he invited them to eat. Kumiko's face is a mask of strained pleasantry as she internally screams, realizing this impromptu student council meeting was definitely not in the plan. Yusung invites the flustered handlers to join them, and they have no choice but to awkwardly agree. Kumiko's nice, peaceful date has officially been crashed, leaving the four of them in a very awkward seating arrangement. Minami leans over and whispers an apology for her idiot brother's blunder, advising Kumiko to just act natural for now. A steaming bowl of ramen is placed in front of them. Noticing Kumiko's hesitation, Yu-sung asks if this is her first time having ramen. She admits she's only ever seen it on TV, confirming Yu-sung's suspicion that she's a sheltered lady who's never had commoner food. Minami blurts out she eats it all the time at home. Shinjiro, ever the loyal butler, barks at Minami for asking such a rude question. All eyes are on Kumiko as she cautiously takes her first spoonful. Yu-sung watches anxiously, asking if it suits her taste. A moment of silence hangs in the air before Kumiko's eyes sparkle. She covers her mouth, exclaiming that it's delicious. Yu-sung beams, relieved that she likes it, and a happy atmosphere settles over the table. He generously tells her to have as much as she wants, since the meal is on him. Kumiko politely declines more, saying this is plenty. But Shinjiro, ever the glutton, eagerly volunteers to finish her leftovers for her. Minami shoots him a glare, reminding him he just had a supposed stomachache. After lunch, the group makes an unexpected stop at a game center. Kumiko and Minami stand before a claw machine, groaning in disappointment, as a cute plushie slips from the claw's grasp. Meanwhile, the friendly competition of the boys soon takes a turn, as Yu-sung finds himself locked in a fierce fighting game battle against Shinjiro. Shinjiro celebrates a victory, rubbing it in Yu-sung's face. Yu-sung's patience wears thin. He feels that the vice president is crossing a line, possibly even mocking Koreans, and decides he's going to crush him. Unbeknownst to him, Shinjiro is just as fired up, vowing to make Yu-sung pay for having the audacity to receive the young lady's affection. The rivalry intensifies as Yu-sung completely dominates the game. Another round, another brutal KO for Yu-sung. Yu-sung's relentless assault leaves Shinjiro utterly defeated and in disbelief. Yu-sung glares, taunting Shinjiro about his earlier big talk. Shinjiro, however, isn't done yet. He gets a determined glint in his eye. He calls out Yu-sung's name, declaring that they'll settle this with that. He points dramatically towards a nearby punch machine. Shinjiro gets right in Yu-sung's face, arguing that a real man doesn't settle things with games, but with his body. He reveals that despite his slender frame, he's actually secretly ripped. With a dramatic flourish, he tears open his shirt, revealing a perfectly sculpted six-pack. Yu-sung is absolutely floored, wondering how on earth a person can even hide muscles like that. Shinjiro flexes triumphantly, basking in the fiery aura of his own manliness. Meanwhile, Kumiko and Minami can only watch in second-hand embarrassment, completely mortified by Shinjiro's over-the-top display. Shinjiro gets ready for a showdown, assuming Yu-sung has accepted his challenge. When Yu-sung denies it, Shinjiro smirks, taking off his glasses. He taunts Yu-sung, expressing his disappointment and saying he didn't take him for a man who runs from a challenge. Still shirtless, Shinjiro smirks, telling Yu-sung to watch closely as he faces the punch machine. He stretches his ridiculously ripped back, warming up for the big show while Yu-sung looks on, unimpressed. Shinjiro lets out a mighty roar, channeling all his energy into his fist. With a powerful grunt, he swings with all his might, his muscles bulging as he aims to set an unbeatable score. The machine lights up, the numbers flying, before finally settling on an incredible score of 960. Minami and Kumiko are shocked. Not only is it a high score, it's a new record for the machine. Shinjiro turns to Yu-sung, a cocky grin on his face as he points, declaring that it's now his turn. Yu-sung turns to Kumiko for help, but Kumiko and Minami actually encourage Yu-sung to go all out, promising they'll pay for the machine if he breaks it. Yu-sung can only cry comical tears, completely baffled by their sudden destructive enthusiasm. Sighing in resignation, he finally agrees. He cracks his knuckles, preparing to face the challenge as Shinjiro watches smugly from the sidelines. But as he gets ready, Yu-sung laments how things got so out of hand. The score isn't the real issue here. His internal monologue reveals a shocking secret. His body is currently under a muscle gag character, buff from the manga's author. With this absurd power-up, he's terrified that if he gets serious, he'll completely obliterate the machine with a single punch. Deciding he has no other option, Yu-sung's eyes begin to glow with a menacing purple energy. He resolves to go all in. If he's going to break it, he might as well do it beautifully. He focuses his power, winding up for the punch of his life. He unleashes his fist, and a shockwave of pure energy erupts, hurtling towards the unsuspecting arcade game. Shinjiro's smug expression instantly vanishes, replaced by one of pure shock as he witnesses the raw power firsthand. But in a hilarious twist, Yu-sung's punch completely misses the padded target, instead slamming into the solid iron frame and leaving a massive dent. The machine fails to register the hit, displaying a big fat 0. Kumiko exclaims that his score is nothing. Shinjiro even gives him a thumbs down, scolding him for his poor aim, while Yu-sung sweats, just trying to play it cool. Internally, Yu-sung breathes a sigh of relief. He avoided setting a new world record and exposing his ridiculous strength. But just as he thinks he's in the clear, the punching pad, which he never even touched, slowly detaches from the machine. It clatters to the ground with a pathetic thud, the sheer shockwave of his punch having been too much for it. The entire group falls silent, staring at the fallen pad, which now sports a tiny angel halo. Even the shirtless Shinjiro is left speechless, staring at the bizarre outcome of their showdown. Trying to salvage his dignity, he smoothly puts on a pair of sunglasses. With a bead of sweat running down his face, he coolly declares their match a draw. He points dramatically at Yu-sung, promising a landslide victory next time before making a hasty retreat. Yu-sung is just relieved he survived the ordeal. To lighten the mood after the near disaster, Yu-sung suggests they all take some photo booth pictures together. He points to a nearby self-studio, hoping to end the day on a less destructive note. Kumiko and Minami are immediately on board, thinking that taking sticker photos sounds like a lot of fun. Yu-sung herds the group into the tiny booth, ready to make some memories. Their first photo is surprisingly normal, with everyone smiling brightly for the camera. But things quickly dissolve into chaos, with a neck shot showing Shinjiro playfully choking a struggling Minami. They then don adorable animal ear headbands, looking like a perfectly happy, if slightly dysfunctional group of friends. For the final shot, they all put on silly sunglasses, with Yu-sung and Kumiko making cute little finger hearts. Yu-sung holds up the completed photo strip, a perfect memento of their chaotic but fun-filled day. Kumiko looks at the photos, a soft smile on her face as she says they turned out well, ignoring a fuming Shinjiro in the background. The picture of Minami getting choked seems to be a group favorite. Kumiko laughs, admitting that despite the chaos, she's having a genuinely good time. Watching her laugh so freely, Yu-sung can't help but smile himself. Wanting to keep the good times rolling, he suggests they finish off their day with a trip to a karaoke bar. The group eagerly heads off for one last adventure, ready to sing their hearts out. Inside, Shinjiro takes the stage first, belting out a power ballad with all the passion of a rock star. Then it's Kumiko's turn. She holds the microphone, her serene beauty captivating everyone in the room as she begins to sing. She closes her eyes, her voice filling the room, and for a moment, all the day's craziness melts away. The boys are her biggest fans, giving her enthusiastic thumbs-ups and applause for her angelic performance. Yu-sung then joins her on stage, turning her solo into a heartwarming duet. The two of them sing side by side, their smiles radiant as they share the moment. They're completely lost in the music, creating a memory that's both sweet and unforgettable. As night falls, their long, eventful day finally comes to an end. Yu-sung waves goodbye, telling Kumiko to get home safely. In the car ride home, Kumiko tells Yu-sung she had a lot of fun, while her two handlers look completely wiped out in the back. Minami and Shinjiro are practically melting into their seats, admitting they might have gotten a little too carried away. Minami turns to Kumiko, beginning to apologize for their unprofessional behavior. She confesses that they got so wrapped up in having fun that they completely forgot their mission, and failed to find a moment to slip away. Kumiko just listens quietly, her expression unreadable as her handlers continue to fret. Then, to their surprise, a gentle smile spreads across her face. She reassures them that it's okay, because today was genuinely one of the most fun days she's ever had. As the car drives on, Kumiko drifts into a fond memory of the day's events. She reminisces about all her new experiences, like sharing ice cream and laughing while shopping with Yu-sung. Looking at the photo strip, she thinks that while her time with Yu-sung was special, it's been far too long since she had this much fun with just her two oldest friends, Minami and Shinjiro. She turns to them, her eyes full of warmth, and sincerely thanks them for always being by her side, through thick and thin. Clutching the photos, she tells them how much their presence means to her. Her heartfelt words move the two handlers to tears, their professionalism completely forgotten. Overcome with emotion, they both start sobbing, loudly proclaiming their lifelong loyalty to their beloved young lady. The scene becomes a comical mess of tears and laughter, as Kumiko tries to comfort her overly emotional bodyguards. With a mischievous glint in her eye, Kumiko tells them this won't be their last chance for a fun outing. Their tears instantly stop as they eagerly promise to make her next date with Yu-sung an absolute success. The van, filled with renewed determination and happy tears, speeds off into the night, but the scene suddenly shifts. In a quiet studio, a manga artist is seen sketching, hard at work at his desk. He's interrupted by a light knock on his door. Rika pops her head in, cheerfully calling out to her, "Papa." She playfully reminds him that her friend is coming to visit them tomorrow. The author turns and smiles, assuring his daughter that he hasn't forgotten. He says he's looking forward to finally meeting the friend she's always talking about. The next day, as promised, Yu-sung heads over to Rika's house, where he comes face to face with none other than her father. Completely starstruck, Yu-sung can barely contain his nervousness, sweating bullets before the man himself. He immediately performs a perfect 90-degree bow, showing his utmost respect for the legendary Kishimoto-sensei. Internally, Yu-sung is having a full-on fanboy meltdown, realizing he's meeting the one and only manga god Musashi. The author of his favorite series stands right before him, exuding an aura of pure creative genius. Kishimoto-sensei is amused by his daughter's friend, noting that he really does look like an old-school shonen protagonist, just as Rika described. He warmly invites the flustered Yu-sung inside. Yu-sung is then introduced to Rika's beautiful mother, Maria, who cheerfully admits she went all out cooking for their special guest. And she wasn't kidding. A magnificent feast is spread out on the dining table, looking like something straight out of a five-star restaurant. The four of them sit down for what should be a pleasant meal, but for Yu-sung, it feels more like an interrogation. Kishimoto-sensei casually mentions that Rika has been talking about Yu-sung non-stop lately, causing our hero to break into a cold sweat. The mood intensifies as the author reveals it's the first time his daughter has gotten this close to a boy, giving Yu-sung a classic overprotective dad glare. Panicking, Yu-sung decides he needs to clear up any and all misunderstandings before he ends up on a manga villain's hit list. He frantically tries to explain that he and Rika are just normal friends. Rika blush and squirm in her seat. The author laughs it off, saying he was just a little worried that as Rika's first male friend, Yu-sung might have some funny ideas about her. Yu-sung can only sweat nervously, thinking to himself that any dad would be protective of their daughter. In fact, he muses that if he had a daughter as cute as Rika, he'd probably see every guy who approached her as a wolf too. The two of them share an awkward, charged glance across the table, both blushing messes. Yu-sung quickly looks away, feeling the heat of her dad's gaze on him once again. Rika finally snaps, cutely complaining that they're both making her sound weird, and to cut it out with the ominous comments. Yu-sung quickly tries to placate her, insisting he's fine and for her to calm down. Meanwhile, her parents share an unknowing look, wistfully commenting on how their little girl is all grown up now. Kishimoto-sensei gets lost in a fond memory, thinking back to when Rika was just a little kid. A flashback shows an absolutely adorable fang-toothed little Rika clutching a stuffed bunny. She sweetly declares to her father that when she grows up, she's going to marry him. A classic daughterly promise. The memory brings a tear to his eye, and he discreetly wipes it away, overcome with emotion. His wife simply smiles, completely used to her husband's soft side when it comes to their daughter. Changing the subject, Kishimoto-sensei mentions he heard Yu-sung is a huge fan of his work and offers him a tour of his studio after dinner. Yu-sung's face lights up instantly, his fanboy mode re-engaging at full power. His mind races with excitement. A chance to see the master's creative sanctuary is a dream come true. After the meal, Yu-sung is practically floating on air, already imagining the autograph he's about to get. Rika leads him down the hall, both of them sharing a happy laugh at his pure, unadulterated joy. But first, a little detour. Rika proudly presents her own personal sanctuary, her bedroom. Yu-sung is stunned. Her room is less of a bedroom and more of a shonen manga library, with shelves packed to the ceiling. This girl's love for the genre is the real deal. With a mischievous glint in her eye, Rika says she'll go grab some tea and snacks, telling Yu-sung to wait right there. Before leaving, she pokes her head back in with a stern warning, "Don't touch anything, or she'll be really mad." Yu-sung happily agrees, still admiring the collection. Left alone, Yu-sung sits on the floor, realizing with a jolt that this is his first time ever being in a girl's room. It feels weird. To stop himself from overthinking, he pulls out his phone to kill some time with the game. But his quiet moment is interrupted by a cheerful, "Hi there," from the doorway. Rika's mom, Maria, has arrived with a secret mission. She breezes into the room, telling a startled Yu-sung to just call her Maria. Yu-sung barely has time to stammer out a greeting before Maria reveals her true purpose. She's here to expose her daughter's dark past. With a dramatic flourish, she whips out Rika's growth album, ready to unleash a torrent of parental embarrassment. She starts with the cute stuff, flipping through adorable photos of baby Rika at ages 1 and 2. But then she lands on a picture from Comiket, and Yu-sung's expression instantly freezes. He knows where this is going. As Maria flips through, she casually mentions she used to be a cosplayer herself. Yu-sung can only think that the cringe gene must be hereditary. Just as he thinks it's over, Maria's eyes sparkle. She announces that she's found it, her daughter's true dark past. Yu-sung looks over, and his jaw drops. It's a photo of a younger Rika in a full gothic Lolita cosplay, striking a pose straight out of an edgy anime. At that exact moment, Rika walks in with a tray of snacks, only to freeze in horror at the scene before her. Her face pales as she sees the photo in Yu-sung's line of sight, her worst nightmare coming true. Yu-sung, for his part, is just trying not to laugh, thinking to himself that Rika is way deeper in the weeb zone than he ever imagined. Mortified, Rika lunges at Yu-sung, grabbing his shoulders and frantically explaining that it was just a cringy chunibu phase she went through. Maria giggles, her mission accomplished. She tells the two to have fun and practically flees the scene, leaving chaos in her wake. An awkward silence falls. Rika, defeated, slumps to the floor, her face burning with shame. On the verge of tears, she looks up at Yu-sung and quietly asks if he'll keep her embarrassing past a secret. Her eyes well up as she struggles to contain her mortification. It's a truly vulnerable moment for the usually cheerful girl. Yu-sung, ever the good guy, reassures her, saying it's okay and that everyone goes through an 8th grader syndrome phase at least once. Rika sniffles, asking if he's ever done anything that embarrassing. She can't imagine the cool, composed Yu-sung having a cringy past. A sly grin spreads across Yu-sung's face. He admits he was pretty bad in middle school too, and offers to show her a picture. Intrigued, Rika leans in close as Yu-sung pulls up a photo on his phone. He holds out the phone for her to see, ready to share his own dark history. Rika's eyes go wide with shock as the image loads on the screen. It's a picture of a scrawny punk rock Yoo-sung, complete with fake tattoos, a spiked collar, and an edgy pose, uttering the classic Chuni line, "I can feel the black dragon inside me awakening." Rika stares, utterly speechless. She can't believe this edgy kid is the same person as the ripped, handsome guy sitting next to her. Yoo-sung explains that he felt weak and unmanly back then, which is why he started working out like a madman before high school. Rika playfully remarks that if she transferred 2 years earlier, she could have met Black Dragon Yoo-sung in person. Yoo-sung leans in a little closer, asking if she doesn't like the current him. Panicked by the sudden question, Rika blurts out without thinking, "What are you talking about? I really like you the way you are now." The second the words leave her mouth, she claps her hands over it, her face exploding in a blush. Yoo-sung is just as stunned, his own face turning red, as he processes her sudden, heartfelt confession. The air crackles with unspoken feelings as they stare at each other, both completely flustered and at a loss for words. Yoo-sung, still sitting on the floor, can only stammer out her name, completely caught off guard by her sudden outburst. Realizing what she just said, a mortified Rika frantically tries to backpedal, her face a vibrant shade of red. Yoo-sung listens, a nervous sweat drop running down his own blushing face as he waits for her to break the silence. In a panic, she blurts out that she only sees him as a good friend-zoning him with all her might to cover her embarrassment. Taken aback, Yoo-sung can only stammer that she's right, he's just a good friend. They both force a laugh, trying desperately to pretend the air isn't thick enough to cut with a knife. But the forced smiles quickly fade, leaving them in another bout of awkward silence, unable to look at each other. To finally break the tension, Yoo-sung turns to her, a little flustered but with a sincere expression. He genuinely thanks her for inviting him over, saying that meeting Kishimoto-sensei and getting his autograph is a memory he'll treasure forever. Rika beams, telling him not to mention it, especially since he's been helping her out so much since her first day at school. With a charming smile, she adds that if this counts as payback, he's welcome to come over and hang out anytime. A warm, gentle atmosphere finally settles between them as they share a comfortable, happy moment. The sun begins to set, its warm colors filling the sky and signaling the end of Yoo-sung's amazing visit. As Rika walks him out, she tells him he could have stayed longer, but he replies that he's already been there a while and should head home. He then remembers she mentioned an overseas family trip starting the next day and asks where they're going. With a cute, fang-toothed grin and a peace sign, Rika excitedly announces they're off to Hawaii. Yoo-sung tells her to have fun, cheekily reminding her not to forget sunscreen. Becoming serious for a moment, he tells her that if anything happens, she should call him, and he'll come help no matter what. Rika playfully asks how he'd even get to Hawaii, wondering if he plans to swim. He comically considers it, thinking his ridiculous physical stats might actually make it possible. Laughing it off, he says he'll just crack open his savings and buy a plane ticket, much to Rika's amusement at his sensible answer. They share one last goodbye, waving as he prepares to head home after a day full of unforgettable moments. With a final, warm smile, Yoo-sung turns and walks away, leaving Rika to watch him go. As he leaves, Rika's expression softens into a look of pure fondness, her feelings for him becoming undeniable. The way she feels is now crystal clear, a warm and blossoming affection for the kind boy who entered her life. Yoo-sung, for his part, walks away completely unaware of the profound effect he's having on her. Her mind flashes back to when they first met, when he kindly bought her a drink from the vending machine. She remembers the simple joy of sharing the lunch on a park bench. She recalls how he'd been so thoughtful, helping her find the right books in the library without a second thought. She thinks about how he sincerely called her a good person, a simple compliment that made her heart flutter, and how he instinctively shielded her in the crowded train station, his presence, a comforting and protective bubble. She remembers how close he was, telling her to just bear with the crowd for a little longer. And when they were about to miss their train, he had grabbed her hand without hesitation, pulling her along with him to safety. All these small, kind moments flood her memory, each one making her heart beat a little faster. A beautiful, radiant smile spreads across her face as she stands bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The scene shifts. It's now day 5 of Golden Week, and our hero finds himself in the otaku paradise of Akihabara. Yoo-sung takes a confident step forward onto the bustling street, his bag filled with all the new manga he just bought. He pulls out his phone, thinking to himself that, since his shopping is done, he might as well grab something to eat. As he looks up, contemplating a trip to his usual ramen place, his peaceful day is about to be spectacularly interrupted. Suddenly, he hears the frantic sounds of someone running at full speed. A girl with striking blue hair screams for everyone to get out of the way, her voice filled with panic. Yoo-sung barely has time to register what's happening before the source of the commotion is right on top of him. The girl spectacularly vaults over a stone wall, flying through the air like an action hero. In a classic, almost unbelievable rom-com moment, her knees hits Yoo-sung's face cleanly. Her skirt flips up completely, giving him a direct, shocking view of her panties. The impact of her foot sends him stumbling back with a massive, comedic nosebleed. But he regains his posture and catches the falling girl. Dazed and confused, he wonders if this is what they call rom-com logic in real life. Before he can recover, he sees a group of menacing men in black suits chasing after the girl. He quickly checks on the blue-haired girl, who seems ungrateful for his concern, brushing him off with an annoyed TCH. Meanwhile, her pursuers are closing in, pointing and shouting her name, Sasha. Panicked, Sasha grabs onto Yusung's arm, frantically begging him for help, with no time to explain. She drags him through the streets, telling him to hurry up, ignoring his protest that she's heading towards a dead end. Realizing she has no idea where she's going, he quickly takes the lead, grabbing her hand and pulling her in the right direction. He ducks into a nearby ramen shop, a place he seems to know well, pulling her to safety just in time. As the men in suits run past the shop, Yusung and Sasha hide beneath a table, narrowly avoiding being seen. The coast is clear, but the two are now stuck in a very awkward position, pressed close together under the table. Sasha thanks him for his help, but Yusung, still reeling from the sudden chaos and the nosebleed, is completely unimpressed. He tells her he just got dragged into this by accident, and gets straight to the point, demanding to know why she was being chased. She deflects, introducing herself as Sasha and suggesting they sit down first, before asking for his name in return. After he introduces himself as Kim Yusung, Sasha is surprised to learn that he's not Japanese. But Yusung isn't interested in small talk. He glares at her, once again demanding to know who was chasing her and why. When she gives a vague, evasive answer, he's had enough and gets up to leave, telling her good luck with the running. She desperately stops him, insisting that common sense dictates he should help a beautiful girl first and ask questions later. Yusung deadpans that her version of common sense isn't common anywhere in the world. Realizing her charm isn't working, Sasha switches tactics and offers to pay him for his help. She pulls out a staggering wad of cash from her bag, the sheer volume of it making Yusung's jaw drop. Yusung immediately agrees. He shakes her hand on the deal while Sasha mutters that in the end, it always comes down to money. Now that they have a deal, Sasha says she can't keep hiding the truth from him any longer. She removes her hat, letting her long, vibrant, and incredibly familiar blue hair fall freely around her shoulders. A sudden, shocking realization begins to dawn on Yusung's face. Sasha explains that her father is a big deal in a place called Luxia, and she believes those men were part of a plot to kidnap her. Yusung is stunned into silence. He recognizes that face, that hair, that entire aesthetic from somewhere very specific. It finally clicks. This girl, Sasha, is the spitting image of Ale, one of the main heroines from the manga, Scramble Love. After striking their deal, their first stop is a clothing store. They need to get Sasha into a disguise to throw off her pursuers. Sasha emerges in a sporty new outfit, asking Yusung for his opinion on her new look. He agrees it looks much easier to move in. With that settled, Sasha lays out the simple terms of their deal. He just has to be her bodyguard until 7 p.m. Yusung is stunned by the short time frame, but she confidently assures him that she can handle everything on her own after that. Then, as if she isn't being chased by kidnappers, she asks if there's anywhere fun to go sightseeing, mentioning it's her first time in Japan. Yusung is utterly bewildered. She grins, explaining it's a strategic move. In crowded places, it'll be harder for her pursuers to make a move without causing a scene. Though annoyed, Yusung has to admit that her reckless logic actually makes some sense. He now knows her full name, Alexandra Ivanikova Romanova, though she prefers to go by Sasha. She's a fan-favorite character from the manga and one of its main heroines. Yusung recalls that in the original story, Sasha was supposed to have her first encounter with the actual protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. But for some reason, fate, or perhaps his own interference, has led her to run into him instead, completely derailing the plot he knows. He puts the pieces together, realizing he must be meeting her before her official debut in the Scramble Love timeline. As for why a main heroine is being hunted by kidnappers, he has no clue, and he's starting to wonder if he should even be getting involved. He remembers his initial, righteous indignation when she first tried to buy his help, but then he recalls the hilariously massive stack of cash she'd pulled out, and how quickly his principles had vanished. Resigning himself to his new, temporary job, he figures he can handle being a bodyguard for just 6 hours. Sasha, meanwhile, sizes him up with a sly look. She prides herself on being an excellent judge of character, and from her first glance at Yusung, she could tell he was strong. She's confident that he'll have no problem protecting her for the next 6 hours. With their plan in place, Sasha says it's time to get moving before her pursuers can pinpoint their location. But it's already too late. The men in black suits have found them, shouting for them to stop. Yusung can't believe how quickly they were tracked. Grabbing Sasha's hand, he makes a break for it. She tells him these men are all former KGB agents. As they run, one of the agents plants his feet, ready to intercept. The agent throws a powerful punch straight for Yusung's face, but thanks to his superhuman stats, Yusung easily ducks under the attack. The agent is stunned. He never expected a random teenager to possess such incredible reflexes. Yusung doesn't just dodge. He uses the man's momentum against him, grabbing his arm and effortlessly hoisting him into the air. He then swings the agent around like a weapon, slamming him into his comrades and knocking them down like bowling pins. Both Sasha and pursuers are momentarily shocked by the display of raw, overwhelming power. Wasting no time, Yu-sung grabs Sasha and pulls her into a nearby building for cover. From the relative safety of the doorway, Sasha watches the unfolding scene with wide-eyed disbelief. Yu-sung takes a moment to assess the situation. These guys are on a totally different level from the street punks he's used to. Unfortunately for them, however, Yu-sung is on a different level too. The remaining agents regroup and charge at him, completely unaware of the beatdown they're about to receive. Yu-sung grins, thinking to himself that according to rom-com logic, the guy with the bigger build is always destined to win. He then proceeds to prove his theory, unleashing a brutal and efficient flurry of devastating blows. In a matter of seconds, the entire squad of highly trained agents is lying on the ground, completely neutralized. He stands over them, confident that he can definitely handle enemies at this level. But just as he lets his guard down, a new voice cuts through the air, ordering the fallen men to fall back. This new opponent, with a sharp burst of speed, dropped his weight and delivered a brutal shoulder check, throwing the Yu-sung completely off balance. The man is their leader, the formidable Captain Boris. Boris towers over him, remarking on his surprising toughness, but clearly unimpressed. Yu-sung feels a drop of nervous sweat roll down his face. This guy is on a whole other level. He wonders if his rom-com buff will even work on him. Boris cracks his knuckles, his body radiating a palpable and intimidating aura. Watching from the doorway, Sasha's face turns pale with fear. She knows this man. She frantically thinks that no matter how strong Yu-sung seems, there's absolutely no way he can defeat Captain Boris. Boris's confident smirk seems to confirm her worst fears. He is an absolute monster. Yu-sung lets out a quiet sigh. He finally understands why Sasha was so willing to pay him a fortune. Her problems were bigger than he thought, but there's no turning back now. He resolves to end this quickly. With a burst of speed, Yu-sung closes the distance in an instant, taking Boris by surprise. Boris barely has time to raise his arm to defend himself against the sudden onslaught. Yu-sung's fist connects, sending a shockwave of purple energy through the air. But Boris meets the attack head-on, a crazed grin spreading across his face as he absorbs the blow. Yu-sung can't believe the sheer power he's facing. This man is a different breed of fighter. Boris tightens his grip on Yu-sung's wrist, his strength proving to be overwhelming. He pivots, expertly transitioning into a painful joint lock. He puts all his strength into the technique, trying to dislocate the Yu-sung's arm. Yu-sung cries out in surprise and pain, recognizing the move. This man is trying to break his arm. As his shoulder pops, a strange memory flashes through Boris' mind, a child calling out for their father. For a split second, a faint, nostalgic smile crosses Boris' lips. But the moment passes. Yu-sung had enough of it. From lying position, he rises to kneeling and raises his arm with the Boris sticking to him. Pushed to his absolute limit, Yu-sung's eyes begin to glow with a menacing purple light. With a surge of inhuman strength, he breaks the hold and reverses it, twisting Boris into a painful hip lock. The captain screams as he feels the joint give way. Boris can't believe it. This kid is actually trying to cripple him. With a powerful heave, Yu-sung flips the massive man completely over his shoulder. Boris lands headfirst on the hard pavement. With a sickening thud, Sasha's jaw drops, her mind unable to process what she's just witnessed. The other agents are frozen in place, their faces a mask of pure shock and terror. The fight is over. The unbeatable Captain Boris has been defeated. Panting heavily, Yu-sung looks down at the mess he's made, muttering that joint injuries are no joke, and wondering who'll pay his gym fees if he gets hurt. Peeking out from the door, Sasha's mind is completely blown. He actually took down Captain Boris. She stares at Yu-sung's back, now shrouded in an intimidating aura. How can any single person be this overwhelmingly strong? Elsewhere, in a dark, abandoned warehouse, a man with a wild blue beard answers his phone. It's one of the defeated agents on the line, delivering a shocking report. Captain Boris Zarov has been taken out. The blue-haired man, clearly the mastermind, scoffs in disbelief. He claims it's impossible, that no fighter in Japan could ever defeat Boris. The agent on the ground begins to describe their attacker. A tall, mixed-race man, with black hair and piercing eyes. As he hears the description, the mastermind freezes, a look of dawning horror on his face. A legendary, almost mythical name comes to his mind. Could it possibly be the infamous Black Yasha? The news of the incident in Akihabara is already spreading like wildfire through the underworld's online forums. A tip from an inside source suggests the impossible. The legendary Black Yasha has resurfaced. In a dimly lit room, someone scrolls through the rapidly updating threads, absorbing every detail. A mysterious woman with long, dark hair sits before a monitor, her attention completely captured by the screen. The forums are abuzz with speculation, but the old-timers are schooling the newbies on the true history. They recount the tale of the first God of Fist tournament, hosted back in 1999 by a monstrous fighter known as Ivan the Destroyer, who sought a worthy opponent. Just when Ivan's supremacy seemed absolute, a mysterious figure known as Fuma Kotaro appeared out of nowhere. This enigmatic fighter, cloaked in black, fought only once, but left an indelible mark on the underworld. Despite his single appearance, Kotaro battled his way to the finals, cementing his status as a living legend before vanishing without a trace. The woman at the computer ponders this information, her expression unreadable. Her sharp eyes narrow as she considers the implications. Could it be true? Has Fumiko Taro, the Black Yasha, really returned? With a decisive motion, she stands up, her mind made up. She grabs her jacket, clearly intending to investigate these rumors herself. She opens the door, stepping out into the light with a look of grim determination. This powerful figure, whose identity is Fuma Yukika, the formidable third-year captain of the Kendo Club, is now on the move. She looks out over the city, a place now potentially hosting a legendary ghost from the past. Her first destination seems to be the one her father called home. Meanwhile, in a stark tonal shift, Yusung and Sasha have arrived at their next sightseeing spot. To Yusung's absolute horror, they're greeted by a chorus of maids welcoming their master home. Sasha has brought him to a maid cafe. Yusung is overwhelmed by the sheer cringe, even though a small, shameful part of him had always wanted to hear that line. He can't believe this is what she considers a good place to hide out. Sasha, on the other hand, insists that a maid cafe is a mandatory stop for any tourist in Japan. A maid leads the bewildered Yusung and the enthusiastic Sasha to their table. As he looks at the ridiculously cute menu, Yusung grumbles to himself, calling Sasha the landmine king for her chaotic choices. She confidently assures him that since he flattened those agents earlier, they should be safe for a few hours. Suddenly, Yusung feels a strange chill run down his spine, an unsettling sensation he can't quite place. He complains that Sasha's antics have made it unsafe for him to even show his face in public for weeks. Sasha casually explains that the strange feeling is probably from an EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. His brain short-circuits as she elaborates that the EE combat squads always deploy an EMP to fry all nearby electronics before an operation. He's completely lost, having no idea what EE even is. She clarifies that EE stands for Easter Egg Company, a massive arms manufacturer based in Luxia. Yusung is floored, demanding to know why a huge weapons company would be trying to kidnap her. With a slightly exasperated look, Sasha reminds him that, as she already told him, she's the child of someone very important. Before he can process this, their server, a cat maid named Hyoniko, arrives with their food. Yusung is once again thrown for a loop by the sight of a girl with cat ears acting like an actual cat, while Sasha is absolutely delighted. He nervously thanks her for the amiris, just wanting the ordeal to be over. But Hyoniko stops him from digging in, explaining there's a special ritual they have to perform first. A sense of impending doom washes over Yusung as the maid tells them to repeat after her. With a cheerful grin, Hyoniko forms a heart with her hands. She begins the chant to make the food more delicious, a cutesy momokyun. The sheer secondhand embarrassment is so powerful, Yusung feels like he's going to die on the spot, while Sasha eagerly joins in. Sasha turns on him, demanding to know why he isn't participating. He tries to refuse, but Hyoniko insists that it's the cafe's policy, NYA. Defeated and humiliated, Yusung can only groan in despair. With sweat pouring down his bright red face, he forces himself to comply. He begrudgingly makes a heart shape with his hands, and whispers the dreaded words, Momo-kyun. Sasha completely loses it, bursting into uncontrollable laughter at the sight of the stoic fighter being reduced to this. Yusung's soul seems to leave his body as the maid, and Sasha revel in his suffering. Despite the agonizing ritual, he takes a bite and has to admit the food is actually pretty good. After they finish eating, Hyoniko returns, asking if they enjoyed their meal. She then reveals there's a penalty for whoever comes in last in their next game. Yusung's eyes widen in horror as she holds up a pair of cat ears. The loser, she explains, has to wear the cat ears and end every sentence with NYA until the next game is over. He desperately asks if there are any other options, but Sasha just tells him to win. Filled with a fiery determination born of pure desperation, Yusung vows to win at all costs. But alas, fate is cruel. Despite his best efforts in their card game, he loses spectacularly. The penalty is enacted, and Yusung is forced to don the humiliating cat ears. Steam practically radiates from his head as he stews in his defeat and shame. Sasha and the maid urge him to say something, reminding him it doesn't count as a penalty until he does. Gritting his teeth, Yusung forces out a challenge for another round, complete with the mandatory NYA. Sasha can't contain her laughter, pointing out how utterly ridiculous he looks. Seething with rage and embarrassment, Yusung vows that he will definitely win the next round. They finally leave the cafe, the bell chiming behind them. Sasha stretches happily, exclaiming how much fun she had. Yusung, however, is a defeated man. He's completely drained, having failed to win a single game. He notes that it's almost 5 o'clock and asks if she's upset they didn't see any real tourist spots. She tells him it's fine, because she still had a great time thanks to him. They walk in silence for a moment as the sun begins to set. Then, Sasha stops, telling Yusung there's something she needs to confess. She reveals the truth. The men they fought earlier weren't kidnappers. They were her father's hired bodyguards. Yusung is stunned into silence by the sudden plot twist. Sasha apologizes for lying, explaining she had just snuck out of her hotel to do some sightseeing. She hadn't expected things to get so out of hand, and tells him he's free to go back now. Just as she's about to say her final thanks, the unmistakable sound of a helicopter fills the air. A chopper descends from the sky, kicking up wind and leaves. On board is the blue-bearded man from earlier. He lands with a theatrical flair, a menacing grin on his face as he declares that he's finally found them. Yusung is shocked by the over-the-top entrance. The man jumps down from the helicopter, his powerful frame radiating sheer intimidation. He mockingly tells Sasha that thanks to her little stunt, they didn't have to look very hard. Yusung sweats, realizing he's face-to-face with the true source of all this chaos. Confused, Sasha asks how did he find her, and why is he personally here? The man speaks, "This is a personal matter, my daughter." Panicked, Sasha calls out to her papa, trying to explain that she was just about to head back on her own. Yusung's mind races as the pieces click into place. This over-the-top, intimidating powerhouse is Sasha's father. Her father dismisses her apology, his focus entirely on Yusung, who watches with a strange, unreadable smirk. He then casually mentions hearing rumors that the legendary Black Yasha has reappeared in Tokyo, a statement that leaves Sasha completely lost. He glares at Yusung, asking his daughter if she's gotten involved with the legendary fixer. Yusung just points to himself, a picture of pure confusion. The man's gaze intensifies as he recounts the past, reminding them that the Black Yasha vanished without a trace 10 years ago. A dark aura fills the air as an image of the legendary fixer, Fumakotaro, flashes in his mind. Yusung is completely out of the loop, sweating as he tries to figure out what on earth is happening. But Sasha's father isn't interested in explanations. With a roar of excitement, he declares that it's time to finish the fight they started 18 years ago. He stops short, however, taking a closer look at the boy in front of him. He asks who he is, and Yusung retorts that's his line. He introduces himself as Kim Yusung. The man's expression shifts to one of slight disappointment, as he asks if Yusung knows someone named Fumakotaro. Yusung answers honestly, telling the man he's never heard that name in his life. Sasha's father sighs, seemingly satisfied. He tells Yusung he's spared from being disowned for now and tells him to leave. Yusung internally breathes a sigh of relief, concluding that this must all be a simple case of mistaken identity. But just as he's about to walk away, the man stops him with a piercing gaze. He asks how exactly Yusung managed to defeat his captain Boris. Yusung nervously recalls the big guy he laid out earlier. He quickly apologizes, explaining that he genuinely thought Boris was a kidnapper, so he didn't hold back at all. The man's eyes narrow behind his shades. Without another word, he takes a single, purposeful step forward. In a flash, he closes the distance between them, his fist crackling with a terrifying purple energy. Yusung's eyes widen in shock, barely registering the speed of the attack. The powerful fist, radiating a dangerous aura, flies straight towards his face. Sasha screams his name, convinced he's about to be pulverized. But at the last second, Yusung shoves his backpack in the way, taking the full force of the blow. The bag is shredded instantly, and Yusung stares in horror at the remnants, demanding to know what the man thinks he's doing. Sasha's father just smirks, finding it interesting. He challenges Yusung to show him his real strength. Yusung throws his tattered backpack, and the brand new manga inside fall to the ground. This is the last straw. A true otaku's rage boils over, and tears of fury stream down Yusung's face. He vows that he will never forgive this man for desecrating his precious manga. Before he can take action, Sasha's father is already in front of him. He meets the man's next attack head-on, their forearms colliding with a thunderous crack. The impact sends a shockwave through the air, but Yusung refuses to give an inch. Sasha's father twists with surprising agility, continuing his assault without pause. He lands a solid kick, forcing Yusung to stumble back a few steps. Before Yusung can regain his balance, the man lets out a grunt of approval, impressed by the boy's unexpected strength. Yusung, however, is not impressed at all, internally screaming at this sudden escalation. The man suddenly then throws his coat, pulling him in close for a serious talk. He tells a stunned Yusung that he's doing all of this because he's an exceptional genius. He continues his explanation mid-attack, stating that for an untrained high schooler to defeat his right-hand man Boris with his bare hands is something that should be completely impossible. He declares Yusung a prodigy, the kind of talent that only appears once in a century. Yusung's eyes narrow as he listens, a dawning realization beginning to form. And because of this immense, raw potential, Sasha's father has a proposition. He looks Yusung dead in the eye and makes him an offer. Come work under him, and he will help that talent fully bloom. At that moment, everything crystallizes in Yusung's mind. He's finally sure of it. This world, Scramble Love, is no ordinary rom-com webtoon anymore. The man's offer, his very words, are a classic trope straight out of a shonen battle manga. Yusung's mind flashes back through all the manga he's ever read, connecting the dots. He recalls the story's beginning, a classic rom-com setup. But now it all makes sense. The reason he was transported here, the reason for his relentless training, the reason he keeps getting pulled into these insane fights, and the reason his strength was passed off as a simple muscle gag. It was all foreshadowing. He sees it clearly now. The series he's trapped in has undergone a massive genre shift, turning from a fluffy romance into a full-blown battle manga. There's no doubt in his mind. He deduces that the series, being published in JAMX magazine where battle manga reigns supreme, likely suffered from low ratings as a pure rom-com. The author and editorial team must have buckled under the pressure and made the drastic decision to pivot the entire story into a battle series. If that's the case, it means he's going to be surrounded by increasingly powerful and grotesque shonen-style demons, starting with the man right in front of him. While Yusung is having his meta-narrative crisis, Sasha's father impatiently asks for his answer. He even throws in a tempting benefits package, a full sponsorship, including tuition, a house, a car, anything he could ever want. But Yusung isn't listening. A wicked grin spreads across his face. The sudden and dramatic shift in Yusung's demeanor catches Sasha's father completely by surprise. With newfound confidence, Yusung simply addresses him as, "Sir," his brain is working overtime. If this world now follows the rules of a shonen battle manga, then it doesn't matter how strong this guy is now. As a rival character, he's destined to eventually lose to the protagonist. And according to the sacred rules of the shonen universe, his best chance of survival is to stick as close to the protagonist as possible. Having finally formulated a plan, Yusung declines the offer, but his opponent has lost patience. With a furious roar of, "Die!" he lunges forward again. Yusung is flabbergasted by the man's extreme all-or-nothing attitude. A brutal punch connects squarely with his guts, the impact echoing loudly. Blood sprays from his mouth, but he remains standing, his expression hardening. He realizes this man is actually trying to kill him. He'd wanted to go easy on him for Sasha's sake, but now, all bets are off. As the man pulls back for another devastating blow, Yusung's focus sharpens. He spots an opening. In a flash, he exploits it, landing a clean, powerful counterpunch right on the man's cheek. The force of the unexpected blow sends Sasha's father staggering back, a look of pure shock on his face. A dark bruise immediately begins to form, a clear mark of Yusung's monstrous strength. The man's eyes turn white with rage, his expression twisting into a furious snarl. Yusung immediately realizes his mistake. Crap, he hit him way too hard. Now truly enraged, Sasha's father lunges, his hand shaped like a claw, aiming to crush Yusung's skull. He grabs Yusung by the face, his grip like a vice, and lifts him off the ground. As he holds the struggling boy, he decides to impart a little wisdom. He clenches his free hand, raw power gathering around his fist. His eyes glow with pure killing intent as he delivers his lesson. When you throw a punch, no matter the opponent, you must always do it with the intent to kill. With those chilling final words, the screen erupts in a blinding flash of light. Sasha's father delivers his lesson, a punch that shatters the wall behind Yusung. Yusung barely manages to deflect the blow from his vital points. Yusung struggles to his knees, gasping for air after that near-fatal attack. He realizes he only survived by a hair's breadth, slapping the man's hand away at the last second. The speed and power were on another level. He couldn't even track the fist with his eyes. His opponent, however, simply grins, casually naming the technique he just used, the Emperor's Double Eagle. A completely bewildered Yusung can only ask what he's talking about. The man's entire demeanor shifts as his aura explodes, revealing his true power. He is a master of the secret Imperial Romanov martial art. He follows up with a lightning-fast punch, his movements a blur of blue energy. Yusung can't even comprehend this so-called secret martial art, as the attacks are just too fast to see. Watching from the sidelines, Sasha desperately screams for her father to stop the senseless violence, but her pleas fall on deaf ears. Her father is dead set on taking Yusung with him, one way or another. Battered and bruised, Yusung picks himself up. The man changes tactics, now extending an offer. He tells Yusung that if he doesn't want to die, he should come work for him. He promises to teach Yusung everything, to grant him the kind of overwhelming power that would make the world bow down before him. Yusung can't believe the audacity. This guy beats him to a pulp and then tries to recruit him. He internally scoffs, realizing this powerhouse is just a full-blown chunabu with a god complex. But Yusung's resolve hardens as he thinks about what he'd be giving up. He recalls all the friends and precious people he's met since coming to this world. He shouts back that there's no way he'd throw all that away just to follow some old man. The man's smile fades. He admits Yusung's conviction is admirable, but that just makes him want to crush it all the more. Sasha watches in utter horror as her father's patience finally runs out. He unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, each one infused with his terrifying aura. Yusung is overwhelmed, taking a brutal shot straight to the face. The blows rain down, one after another, giving him no room to breathe. He grits his teeth, trying to endure the onslaught. He's sent staggering backwards, his body screaming in protest. But his opponent is merciless, pressing the attack without a moment's hesitation. A devastating punch buries itself in the Yusung's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. But the brief success is short-lived. Yusung realizes this man is on a completely different level. He's the very definition of the strongest. The hulking man towers over the exhausted Yusung, completely unfazed. Finally seeing her chance, Sasha rushes in, screaming for them to stop. she plants herself in front of Yu-sung, pleading with her father to see reason. He coldly orders his daughter to stand aside, their conversation not yet over. When she refuses, he shows no hesitation, grabbing her by the collar. He throws his own daughter to the ground, her body slumping to the ground. Yu-sung stares in shock and disgust, asking if there's any line he won't cross. A cold fury begins to build inside him, his body trembling with rage at the sight. The man simply states that Yu-sung talks too much, declaring that it's time to end things. He winds up for what looks like the final blow, a fist radiating immense power. The attack flies towards Yu-sung, who seems to have no way to defend himself. But suddenly, something makes the man flinch. A cluster of kunai blades suddenly appears, embedding themselves in the ground right at his feet. The man's eyes widen in recognition. Those are the Black Yasha's shuriken. Another projectile whizzes by, leaving a shallow cut on the man's cheek. Out of nowhere, a mysterious figure blitzes past, kunai in hand, aimed right at Sasha's father. The figure lands gracefully between the two combatants, taking a defensive stance. Yu-sung can't believe his eyes. He knows this person. The newcomer introduces herself as Fuma Yukika, the acting head of the 17th Fuma Ninja clan. It's his upperclassman, Fuma Senpai. Yu-sung is utterly dumbfounded. Yukika looks her opponent dead in the eye, and finally solves the mystery. She reveals that the man he's been searching for, the legendary Black Yasha Fuma Kotaro, is her father. The old man's eyes narrow, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. Yukika explains that her father vanished from their village 10 years ago, cutting off all contact. Sasha's father recalls the rumors he'd heard, that the Black Yasha had a daughter. He now understands he's standing face to face with her. With her identity revealed, Yukika readies her weapons, prepared to defend Yu-sung, but first she turns to him, offering a mysterious, glowing pill. Yu-sung stares at the strange object, wondering what on earth it could be. Their opponent isn't about to just stand by and watch. He prepares to attack again, furious at the interruption. Yukika urges Yu-sung to take the pill, explaining it's a family secret that will unlock his hidden potential. She promises to buy him time. With no other options, Yu-sung grabs the mysterious pill from her hand. He trusts his senpai and swallows it without a second thought. The effect is instantaneous. A blinding light erupts from his body. An intense heat spreads from his stomach, feeling like he swallowed the sun itself. Even the Sasha seems to react to the sudden explosion of energy. Yu-sung's body is engulfed in a scorching, fiery aura, as his hidden power is forcibly drawn out. He lets out an earth-shattering roar as he undergoes a dramatic transformation, his power level skyrocketing. Ivan, the so-called strongest, can only watch with a mixture of surprise and amusement. Yukika and Sasha are floored by the sheer magnitude of the energy erupting from him. The fiery aura intensifies, scorching away his hoodie and revealing a physique now brimming with power. He clenches his fist, feeling an unprecedented surge of chi. It's as if something long dormant has finally been set free. His eyes glow with a golden light. His senses are heightened. It's like a third eye just opened inside him. Ivan narrows his eyes, his own violent purple aura flaring in response to the challenge. The two warriors stand in a silent face-off, the air crackling with their immense, conflicting energies. Yukika watches intently, realizing the pill's effect is far greater on Yu-sung than she ever could have predicted. But she knows this is a double-edged sword. He's on a strict 5-minute timer before this power runs out. Ivan finds the situation fascinating, marveling at the mystic power of the East that can grant such strength from a tiny pill. Stepping forward, Yu-sung places himself between the monster and his friends, his expression hardened with new resolve. Powered up and filled with righteous fury, he glares at Ivan, calling him a hopeless villain for raising a hand against his own daughter. Ivan lets out a derisive laugh, completely unfazed by the moral judgment. He scoffs at Yu-sung's words, calling them nothing but the excuses of the weak. In his twisted philosophy, it's the natural order for the strong to trample the weak. He dares Yu-sung to prove him wrong. Yukika and Sasha can only watch, terrified, as the two powerhouses prepare for round 2. Yu-sung settles into his stance, the crimson aura flaring as he readies himself for the fight of his life. Ivan smirks, unleashing his own aura, which takes the form of a ferocious phantom tiger behind him. He declares there's no way he, the strongest in the world, will be defeated by a mere high schooler. With incredible speed, Ivan closes the distance, his fist aimed right at Yu-sung's face. He follows up with a relentless barrage of strikes, each one carrying immense force. The beastly man grins, certain his speed and power will overwhelm the boy once more. But this time, Yu-sung's arms move in a blur, perfectly blocking every single punch. The world has slowed down for him. He can see it all. The attacks are fast but crystal clear. He can now perfectly read his opponent's movements, predicting the trajectory of every strike. As Ivan overextends on a punch, Yu-sung sees his chance. Now, he pivots, dodging the blow and unleashing a powerful counter. A clean hook connects with Ivan's arm, staggering the giant for the first time. The force of the blow sends Ivan sliding backward. His eyes are wide with disbelief. How is this possible? How is a mere kid pushing him back? Before Ivan can recover, Yu-sung is on him again, landing a barrage of hit to the body. Ivan grits his teeth in pain and frustration. The boy's movements are suddenly sharper, more refined. Yusung doesn't let up. His focus absolute as he continues his relentless assault. Furious, Ivan roars, refusing to be humiliated and summoning a new, more powerful technique. His aura coalesces into the form of a majestic and deadly griffin. He unleashes his secret art, the Emperor's Griffin. The spectral griffin's claws shoot forward, aiming to tear Yusung's limbs from his body. Yusung stares down the attack, his resolve unwavering. He knows this is Ivan's trump card. He tries to block the attack, but Ivan laughs, cackling that the boy is a fool for trying to block this attack. He boasts that the griffin's claws will rip his hands clean off, but Yusung doesn't falter. The power surging through him is more than a match. With a roar of his own, Yusung twists, turning the tide of the struggle. He masterfully deflects the attack, throwing Ivan completely off balance. Then, in a brilliant display of martial arts, he uses Ivan's own momentum to spin him around. The shock on Ivan's face is priceless, as he realizes he's lost control. Yusung follows up with a bone-jarring kick to the Ivan's face, sending the so-called strongest flying. Yusung watches him fall, panting heavily as the last vestiges of his borrowed power begin to fade. With a heavy thud, Ivan crashes onto the pavement, completely defeated. He can only lie there, groaning in agony and humiliation. Yusung stands over him, the victor, but the 5-minute power-up has taken its toll. Ivan mutters that it's impossible for him, the strongest in the world, to lose to a single Japanese high schooler. The man's pride is utterly shattered. Yusung looks down at the broken man, his expression cold. He takes a moment to compose himself. The battle finally won, and with his last bit of strength, he delivers one final verbal blow, informing the Russian that he's not a Japanese high schooler. He's Korean. The revelation sends another shockwave through Sasha and Yukika, and with that, the epic confrontation comes to a close. The god of fist champion, Ivan the Destroyer, has been taken down. Yukika is speechless. Yusung didn't just win, he dominated. She wonders to herself just how strong he is. Sasha rushes to his side, calling his name in concern. She asks if he's okay, her voice trembling. He apologizes for beating up her father, but she tells him it doesn't matter. She urges him to leave with Yukika while she handles the cleanup. Yusung agrees, but the moment he turns, his body gives out. He collapses, his stamina completely drained. Sasha tells Yukika to take him and go before people start gathering. Yukika nods, supporting the now unconscious hero. As Yukika carries Yusung away, Sasha stays behind to confront her father. The intense Golden Week holiday finally comes to an end. Back at school, Yusung is feeling the after-effects of his battle, his body aching all over. The bandages and sore muscles are a harsh reminder of his near-death experience. He tries to get through the day, but something is bothering him. Since that day, not a single article about the fight has appeared online. It's as if it never happened, and the silence is deafening. His thoughts are interrupted by the teacher, who has an announcement. He informs the class they have a new transfer student, and she's an exchange student from their sister school in Russia. The classroom door slides open, revealing a student with long, silver-blue hair. It's Sasha, who introduces herself to the class as Alexandra Ivanovna Romanova. A cold sweat runs down Yusung's back. So the cute Russian transfer student that was coming was her all this time. Sasha lists her hobbies, including shooting and horseback riding. But then she stops, her smile turning mischievous. She points a finger directly at our protagonist and declares to the entire class that the thing she's come to like most recently is Kim Yusung. Yusung is absolutely mortified, his spirit leaving his body. Sakamoto can only chuckle, noting that this is unfolding like a perfect rom-com. But for Yusung, this is pure horror. And just like that, his dream of a quiet, peaceful extra life is completely shattered once again. The new school term begins, and with it, a storm of gossip centered around the new transfer student Sasha. Immediately popular, she's bombarded with questions from her new classmates, who are curious about everything from her language skills to her family. One student cuts straight to the chase and asks if Sasha's very public confession was for real. Sasha, with a dazzling smile, confirms that it's absolutely true. She explains that not only has Yusung helped her a lot, but her ideal type has always been a man stronger than her father. This revelation sends a shockwave through the classroom, leaving Yusung and Rika in a state of utter disbelief, while others seem to be enjoying the chaos. Rika can only look on, completely bewildered by this sudden turn of events. She's teasing him about how fast he managed to pick up a foreign girlfriend during the short trip. Rika thinks to herself that Yusung's flustered denial sounds exactly like a lame excuse from a typical rom-com protagonist. Yusung can only sweat bullets, because as much as he wants to deny it, he can't argue with her logic. He internally panics, realizing that Sasha, one of the original story's heroines, is now completely fixated on him, instead of the actual protagonist, Sakamoto. His simple dream of a quiet, comfy, and visible life as an extra is being forcibly swapped for the stressful, incident-filled life of a main character. Just as things couldn't get any more complicated, a cheerful voice calls out his name. It's Karen, who has just returned from her holiday. Without warning, she leaps onto his back with a cheerful greeting, much to his surprise. Sasha's friendly demeanor evaporates in an instant, replaced by a cold, sharp glare. She steps forward, telling Karen to back up a bit, her voice dripping with territorial ice. Karen, not one to be pushed around, fires back, demanding to know who Sasha thinks she is to be ordering her around on their very first meeting. With a confident smirk, Sasha proudly declares that she is the girl who is going to be Kim Yoo-sung's girlfriend, leaving both Karen and Yoo-sung utterly speechless. A flustered Karen shouts that she can't just decide that on her own. Then, in a desperate attempt to stake a claim, Karen announces to everyone that Yoo-sung is already Rika's boyfriend, a revelation that completely blindsides Rika herself. The classroom descends into utter chaos as Yoo-sung is pulled between the two aggressive girls, with Rika looking on in horror. Yoo-sung's soul practically leaves his body as he tries to process how he somehow became Rika's boyfriend without his knowledge or consent. Rika, blushing furiously, frantically denies Karen's claim, insisting that she and Yoo-sung are just friends and nothing more. Hearing this, Sasha's competitive smirk returns. If Yoo-sung isn't with Rika, then that just means she can claim him for herself, right? She moves in closer, much to Karen's dismay. The tension reaches a boiling point, with Sasha, Karen, and Rika all vying for the attention of a very unwilling Yoo-sung. The chaotic scene is interrupted by a new arrival. The quiet and studious class representative, Ayase, Yoo-sung, desperate for any distraction, quickly greets her. Ayase explains that she's spaced out in class and asks if she could possibly borrow his notes. The request sends another ripple of confusion through the girls. Why would the top student need notes from someone like Yoo-sung? Happy to help, Yoo-sung quickly agrees. He hands over a meticulously organized notebook. As Ayase walks away with the notes, the others can only stare in disbelief. Rika is the first to voice her confusion, wondering why a study monster like the class representative would ever need to borrow his notes. Karen chimes in, bluntly calling Yoo-sung a muscle-headed jock, who probably can't even spell his own name. The three girls turn to him, their expressions filled with genuine curiosity about what his academic rank could possibly be. Their jaws collectively hit the floor when Yoo-sung casually reveals that he's ranked first in the entire grade. Yoo-sung's friend can't help but laugh, admitting that, to be fair, Yoo-sung really does look like he'd be bad at studying. Yoo-sung can only sigh in annoyance at his friend's backhanded compliment. His friend pats him on the back, confirming to the others that Yoo-sung isn't lying. He came in as the top-ranked freshman. The girls' perception of Yoo-sung is completely shattered, and they start to see him in a new, more positive light. Rika, Karen, and Sasha all nod in agreement, realizing he's not just some scary delinquent, but actually a kind and smart guy. Overwhelmed by all the sudden attention, Yoo-sung makes a break for it, muttering that he needs to use the bathroom. His friends just laugh, assuming he's just totally embarrassed by all the praise. Walking down the hall, Yoo-sung resolves to keep his distance from Sasha and the others to avoid any more misunderstandings. But his plan immediately fails at lunchtime, when he finds himself at a table, once again surrounded by the three heroines. He mentally screams in frustration. He tried to keep his distance, and yet here he is, right back in the thick of it. His suffering is an absolute spectacle for the rest of the cafeteria, who watch as Sasha clings to his arm. Other students whisper amongst themselves, jealous that Yoo-sung is eating with three of the prettiest girls in school. This is just piling on needless misunderstandings. He can't stand it. While the girls are all in a good mood, he's at his breaking point and needs to find a way to pry them off. Suddenly, an idea strikes him. A wicked, brilliant idea. With a cheerful tone, he asks the girls if they're keeping up with their studying, since midterms are just around the corner. The effect is instantaneous and devastating. The happy, light-hearted mood at the table instantly vanishes, replaced by a thick, gloomy silence. A dark, depressive aura settles over the four of them as the harsh reality of exams crashes down. Rika visibly deflates, muttering that he shouldn't have brought up exams while they were eating. Karen groans, complaining that she always memorizes history dates only to forget them right away. Rika nods in solidarity, lamenting the endless dates they have to remember. Sasha adds her own woes, finding classical literature to be a nightmare, on top of already difficult modern Japanese. Yoo-sung sees his opening. With his first strike being a critical hit, he prepares to deliver the final blow. He suggests that if studying is so hard, the three of them should form a study group to help each other out. The girls think it's a brilliant idea. Rika wonders aloud whose house they should use for their study sessions. Karen eagerly volunteers her place, mentioning she has plenty of empty rooms and they could even have a sleepover. Sasha, though reluctant, agrees to cooperate for the sake of her grades. With a villainous grin, Yoo-sung tells them to do their best, thinking he's finally secured his freedom until the weekend. The weekend finally arrives, and we see Yoo-sung's apartment. He breathes a sigh of pure relief, finally alone and at peace. He proudly unveils his masterpiece, his very own dream home gym. Beaming with satisfaction, he reveals that he used the money he earned bodyguarding Sasha over Golden Week to buy all new workout equipment. Ready to enjoy the fruits of his labor, he grabs the barbell for his first set. He lets out a cry of pure, unadulterated joy as he starts his bench press. This feels amazing, but his moment of bliss is cut short by the buzzing of his phone. Annoyed by the interruption, he picks up the call, mid-representative. It's Rika. She excitedly tells him to look out his window and asks if he's ready. Confused, Yoo-sung opens his window, only to see Rika waving up at him, reminding him about the study group they promised to have at Karen's place. And she hasn't come alone. She's flanked by a massive entourage of big, burly men in black suits. Yoo-sung's face twists into a mask of pure horror. He can only stare, dumbfounded, at the army of scary-looking Yakuza members standing outside his home. Yusung stares in utter disbelief, wondering what fresh hell this is. Unfazed by his horror, Rika cheerfully tells him to hop in the car, gesturing to her intimidating entourage. As Yusung approaches, he sees a bandaged man in the driver's seat, looking suspiciously familiar. His brain short-circuits as he tries to process the situation. A flash of memory hits him. This is the guy he absolutely pummeled during Golden Week. He recognizes him as Sasha's formidable uncle Boris, and a cold sweat runs down his back. He gets in the car, only to find Sasha already there, making the ride to Karen's house incredibly awkward. Sasha casually explains that Boris is her bodyguard, so she can't go out on her days off without him. The tension is unbearable for Yusung, who can only grimace, stuck in a car with a man he beat half to death. They finally arrive, not at a normal house, but at a massive, traditional-style mansion befitting a Yakuza boss. A large, muscular man with red hair welcomes them in. It's Karen's dad. Yusung's memory flashes again. He's met this guy before under less than friendly circumstances. He decides to play dumb. Karen introduces everyone, and Yusung politely bows, pretending he's never seen the man before. To his surprise, Karen's dad looks at him with pure, unadulterated admiration. The man beams, getting uncomfortably close, and praising Yusung for being a reliable friend to his daughter. He then internally declares that as the successor he's chosen for Karen, Yusung is progressing nicely as her future husband. Karen's dad then turns to Boris, greeting him as Captain Boris, revealing they know each other. The two men share a knowing look, catching up like old war buddies. Karen's dad comments on what a surprise it is that Ivan Noah's daughter Sasha is in the same class as Karen. This new connection between the two families leaves Yusung, Rika, and Sasha completely baffled. Karen's father then points to Boris's bandages and asks what happened to him. Without a word, Boris simply points a finger directly at an unsuspecting Yusung. He then declares that all his injuries are thanks to none other than Kim Yusung. One of the men translates for the group, confirming that Boris is blaming Yusung for his condition. The girls are utterly shocked by the accusation. Boris isn't finished. He adds that it wasn't just him. Even the Evan himself, Sasha's father, took a heavy hit from Yusung. Yusung's world crumbles. He's completely and utterly doomed. But then, a glimmer of hope appears. If they think he's a violent monster, they might throw him out, and he can finally go home. His eyes gleam with this brilliant new escape plan. However, his hopes are instantly vaporized when Karen's dad, instead of being angry, roars with laughter, calling him perfect son-in-law material. A mortified Karen yells at her dad to stop saying weird things in front of her friends. Sometime later, the chaos finally subsides, and Yusung lets out a sigh of relief. He internally fumes, annoyed that Boris's report only made things worse. Finally, the study group gets down to business, sitting around a table in a traditional tatami room. Taking charge, Yusung decides to assess everyone's weaknesses, starting with Rika. He tells her she's weak across the board in sciences, and that her only hope is to drill every single formula into her head. The harsh reality of studying settles over the girls, like a dark cloud. Next up is Karen, who looks on nervously. Yusung notes her grades are average, but she's especially bad at memorizing. He advises her to create her own mnemonic system. A determined Karen clenches her fist, ready to give it a try. Sasha then asks for her assignment, looking to Yusung for guidance. He pulls out a thick stack of papers, explaining it's a practice set he originally made for himself. He hands them to Sasha, telling her that for now, repetition is her only option. With their study plans set, the four of them dive into their work with intense concentration. An hour passes, and they're still going strong, diligently writing away. After 2 hours, however, their focus begins to crumble. Rika has dozed off. Seeing everyone is worn out, Yusung calls for a much-needed break, much to the girls' delight. He turns to Karen and asks if he can use her kitchen for a bit. Karen, though a bit confused, readily agrees. With a confident smile, Yusung announces that, since everyone is tired, he's going to whip up a snack. The girls watch from the table, their energy renewed with anticipation. A short while later, Yusung returns, presenting them with 3 huge, beautiful bowls of Korean-style shaved ice. The girls' eyes sparkle with amazement. The bingsu looks like it came straight from a high-end dessert cafe. Karen and Sasha immediately whip out their phones, exclaiming they have to take a picture of this masterpiece. Sasha, however, has a different idea. She gets a sly, mischievous look on her face. She scoops up a spoonful and offers it to Yusung, suggesting they try a bite of each other's. Completely flustered, Yusung tries to refuse, but Sasha is persistent. She pouts, complaining that her arm is getting tired, her eyes sparkling with hearts. Defeated, Yusung opens his mouth and takes the bite, while Rika and Karen watch on, fuming with jealousy. Sasha sweetly asks if it's good, offering to feed him more. Yusung looks like his soul is about to leave his body for the second time today. The sight of this is the last straw for Rika and Karen. Rika jumps in, demanding that Yusung trade with her too. Karen immediately protests, arguing that as the host, he should taste her bingsu first. Karen stares at Yusung, her face flushed with a newfound determination. Her mind flashes back to a previous encounter, where she saw Rika and Yusung together. At the time, she had mistakenly assumed the two were a couple, but she vividly remembers Rika vehemently denying it, insisting they were just friends. Another memory surfaces. The time Yusung gently comforted her when she was crying, an act of kindness that made her heart flutter. Now, realizing Yusung is single, a fire of hope ignites within her. She still has a real chance. With renewed resolve, Karen readies her spoon, determined to win the battle for Yusung's affection.